Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I've never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. It is Friday, March 6th. Let's go, baby. Losing day on the show yesterday. Probably should have been a win. 1-1. Started out nice with Iowa. If they had gotten the outright win, we would have had a slight win last night with the sprinkle on the money line. Iowa was in that game the whole time. That was a nice cover for them. I think maybe at one point they might have not been covering. I'm not sure, but it was pretty much a wire-to-wire cover. Almost won the game outright. So we did hit that one, and then Long Beach got out to a nice start. Well, Long Beach probably should have won that game. They were in the game the whole time. The game went into overtime. When you have a home underdog, they take the game into overtime. Come on, man. I mean, you should win that game. But overtime is also where underdogs can go to die. And that's what they did, and they lost by 6. I didn't see the end of it. I'm assuming they intentionally fouled or something and lost the game by more than 2. Not happy about that. They were potentially in position to win that game. We'll move on to today. We got more college basketball. I'm going to have 2 college basketball plays. I'm skipping hockey, and I'm going to have 2 NBA plays. Maybe I should be a little bit concerned. I don't know. But we're jumping back into the NBA fray here, and you're not going to like it. I'm going to tell you that right now. Yeah, this is how we do it on the show. But the NBA plays are very, very ugly tonight. Let's get into it. Well, as I'm looking at NBA right now, we want to look at college basketball first, though. That's what we're doing. We got a bunch of conference tournament action, man. I mean, we got some noontime action. We're going to start with the Big South, which the first game up is one of the ugliest games, pretty much, with Gardner-Webb, who is an absolutely atrocious team, facing High Point in Johnson City, Tennessee. Now, Gardner-Webb, I guess the argument is they have one advantage here, which is that they already played one game in this arena because they played in the opening game and they upset USC Upstate again. USC upset. They got to be upset because Gardner-Webb beat them during the season, and Gardner-Webb only had like 3 wins on the season. One of them was against USC Upstate, and now they beat them again after USC Upstate did beat them in the last regular season game they played. Gardner-Webb's not going to win this game against High Point, but will they cover? Maybe. I mean, I think High Point, they rely on offensive timing. You might see High Point come in a little bit slow because they haven't played in a while. High Point finished the season hot, and, I don't like that. Like, when a team finishes the season hot and then they have a break, I think that break can hurt their momentum a little bit. They're going to come, like, the conference tournament can kind of be like a reset, right? Like, it's almost like a new season, so I wouldn't lay the points here. It's a huge, huge spread here. High Point should win the game. They're a 25.5-point favorite. 73% of the tickets, 92% of the cash on them. I mean, if you forced my opinion on it, I think I would take the points with Gardner-Webb, but there's no way that I actually want to do that either. This is a complete stay away. So, yeah, great game. Kyle, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right. Then Big South. I'm just gonna do a conference by conference as I usually do. I think one of the most interesting games is the second game up, Charleston Southern and Winthrop, which is the 7 versus 2 matchup here. Gardner Webb and High Point, I think, is the 9 versus 1. Winthrop is a 4.5 point favorite. 69% of tickets, 82% of the cash on Winthrop. Now, things get really interesting with this game because these teams played twice already during the season. Winthrop only won by 4 in the game at home, and they're a much bigger favorite than that and barely got by. They lost at Charleston Southern. I gave you guys Charleston Southern as a play in that one because Winthrop was coming off a huge game against High Point in the previous game, and they almost won the game. So they were in a major hangover spot there. They lost the game outright. Now, you're going to probably remember that was like Charleston Southern was like a 7.5 point underdog at home in that game. Now, I have pointed out that Charleston Southern is actually like the third best team in this conference, believe it or not, even though they're the 7 seed. So I was talking about how Charleston Southern could be a little bit dangerous here against Winthrop in this game. And as you can see, Winthrop's only a 4.5 point favorite. But then you might be thinking, well, wait a minute. You just said Winthrop was a 7.5 point favorite 2 games ago on the road at Charleston Southern, right? So how could they have been a 7.5 point favorite on the road? Now they're a 4.5 point favorite here on a neutral. That makes no sense. Well, yeah, it's because their best player, who's the best player in the conference, I think, Logan Duncombe, I think is his name. He's like a big man on Winthrop. He's one of the best players. He's their best player. He got injured in the Charleston Southern game. I think he's like seriously injured. Like he was in like a wheelchair. He did not play in the Presbyterian game, and they won. I'm assuming they didn't cover because they only won by 4 at home. Now this is going to be their second game without him, though. I think so. I could really see this going both ways. So I can't really get involved with this game. Now, you could argue that, well, the line's short on Winthrop, all right? Like maybe it's over-adjusted to him being out. But that usually would be the argument in that first game out, but they also didn't cover in that game. So I don't know, man. Like the line would have been short in this game at 7.5, and they actually didn't really play that well. So maybe they do come out with a lot of energy in this game. They do know they just lost at Charleston Southern 2 games ago. All that being said, I think I would probably lay it with Winthrop here. I know they're without their best player, but I think it is kind of a zigzag spot. They are still the better team. Yeah, it's a really tough game to gauge with all that. If Duncombe is not coming back, I think Winthrop is not going to win this tournament, though, which, I mean, obviously High Point is the better team anyway, but I think that will help High Point even more if he's going to miss the entire conference tournament. Dirty Sock, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right. Then, the other games are pretty competitive as far as the lines are concerned in the Big South. The 4-5 matchup is Longwood and NC Asheville. Longwood is actually considered to be the better team. They're a 1-point favorite. And the public is coming in on UNC Asheville because I think everybody kind of remembers the UNC Asheville name. Although Longwood has made the tournament probably more recently than UNC Asheville has. I'm not sure about that. I think so. But as you can see here, UNC Asheville is getting the public action. 80% of the tickets, only 61% of the cash. So they look like one of those dreaded public underdogs. So I would probably have to lean against them and lean towards Longwood. The odds makers are kind of telling you Longwood is actually the better team. I think UNC Asheville's had kind of a down year, although they're not horrible, but I think they're not as good as they typically tend to be. For Longwood here, I mean, we could look at, you got to look at like what happened during the regular season. And of course, I didn't even mention, by the way, that High Point did beat Gardner Webb both times this year, beating them by almost 60 points in one of the games. No surprise that High Point beat them 2 times. Anyway, this matchup, I think they split the season series, or actually Longwood might have lost both. Longwood lost at UNC Asheville by 11. Yeah, they lost at home by 5. But the odds makers are telling you Longwood's actually the better team here. So I think it might be a little bit of an outlier, the fact that they lost 2 games to Asheville, and the fact that they lost to them at home although they were only 2.5-point favorites. I don't know if there was an injury involved here or what. Longwood actually had more rebounds in the game. They had a horrible free throw shooting performance in the game. That led to some of the reason why they lost that game, I suppose. Longwood did finish the season a little bit hot with 2 wins in a row. UNC Asheville finished the season with a loss to Charleston Southern. So in that respect, maybe they will bounce back. Because I do, in these first conference tournament games, I do prefer to look at teams that didn't play well in like their last game or something. Because I think they get kind of a reset. But in this game, I think I would lean to Longwood. I think it's pretty misleading that they lost both games to UNC Asheville, where the odds makers are telling you they're actually the better team. So I don't really have much of a read on that game. And then Presbyterian and Radford are in the 6 versus 3 matchup. Radford, 2-point favorite here. Radford's been a decent team in the conference, but Presbyterian's been pretty good in this conference as well. Like they've stepped up against the best teams in the conference. Like they played Winthrop to within 4. They played High Point to within 6 in their last 2 games of the season. But that's kind of a problem because now you have Presbyterian coming off these 2 huge performances. Now, yeah, they lost 3 games in a row, though, and they do have time off now, so maybe that rest will help them and they'll be able to reset. I don't know about that, though. They did lose their last game to Radford at home. They actually did lose on the road, too. Radford, I looked into it, and Radford was the better team in both games. Radford, they came in 3rd in the conference, although I actually think they're the 4th best team in the conference behind Charleston Southern, like I said, believe it or not. Radford did have a bad loss in their last game, though. They got killed by Longwood. So I think Radford would be in that type of situation where they would be able to reset as well. I think I would probably go Radford in this game. They are the better team. It would probably be a money line play for me in that one, but it's not a strong read for me on that. All right. Atlantic Sun also in action at noon. The Atlantic Sun, by the way, very, very weird setup where they're playing in all these different arenas. It's like the World Cup. They're playing in all these different arenas, all in the city of Jacksonville. Now, in the first round of this tournament, or I guess the first big round, or was it just the first? I forget. I forget if it was the first round or just the first complete round. But either way, I mentioned how all the games were in Jacksonville. I think 3 of the games were played on North Florida's court, but North Florida's game against West Virginia, so as to not give North Florida the actual home court advantage, they played that game at Jacksonville's arena. It's very, very strange. And then these games are all at a completely different arena, also in Jacksonville. So this is, I don't know what the A-Sun is doing, man. It's very, very odd. But both those Jacksonville teams are out now as well, so you don't have to worry about any Jacksonville team getting a home city advantage here at this point. The first game up is Bellarmine and Central Arkansas, which is, I believe, a 9 versus 1 matchup here. Bellarmine is not that bad, though. They're really bad on defense, but they could score pretty well, and they did get by Jacksonville. That was a crazy game where Bellarmine was way ahead in that game. Bellarmine dominated that game, and then they completely fell apart because their defense can't hold any sort of lead, and Jacksonville actually took a 5-point lead in that game after Bellarmine was winning by over 20. It was an insane game, and then Bellarmine still won the game at the end. So, type of game that does you do have to put a lot of effort in. Now, maybe Bellarmine does have a little bit of an advantage because they did play a game in the tournament now. So when you have a game in the tournament under your belt, that is kind of an advantage. But they didn't play in the same arena they're playing in tonight. So I think it's more helpful when you have a game under your belt and you stay in the same arena because you just stay there. You're already used to the setting, You're used to shooting in the arena, used to the sight lines, whatever. Central Arkansas clearly is the better team here. Debatably, they're the best team in this conference. It's definitely either them or Austin Peay. Bellarmine, like I said, though, they have played well in some of their games this year against some of the best teams. For instance, they actually beat Central Arkansas at home, and they only lost by 8 on the road. So they played well in both games against Central Arkansas. I think they do kind of have the ability to do it again, man. They have some momentum here. Central Arkansas finished the season quite hot. They only lost 1 game in like probably a 2-month span at the end of the season, beating Austin Peay and Queens to finish the season, the 2 and 3 seeds in the conference. So I don't love that now Central Arkansas comes in maybe a little bit rusty coming into this. Obviously, yes, they're the better team. Do I think they're going to lose? Probably not. But I think I would probably take the points with Bellarmine. But Bellarmine, because their defense is so bad, they're a little bit of a high variance team. They also play slow, which is very weird. They're slow, they're good on offense, good at finding good shots, but they also don't defend. It's a very, very weird mix. 67% of tickets, 74% of the cash on Central Arkansas. They are up to a 6.5-point favorite. You might be able to get a 7. I would probably take the points with Bellarmine, but that's not something I want to put on my card either. The second game up in this conference is possibly a pretty competitive one between I believe it's the 4 versus 5 matchup between Florida Gulf Coast and Lipscomb. Florida Gulf Coast already played in this tournament, so they have that advantage of having momentum. Of course, they're switching arenas here, though, but staying in the same city. Although I assume, these other teams must have already been in the city. They just haven't played yet. But having played a game already does help you a little bit. Florida Gulf Coast had a nice, easy win against North Alabama, who's not very good at all. So I think that's good. That's kind of like a tune-up game. You get used to playing in the tournament, whatever. I mean, of course, Gulf Coast, they're kind of a staple of this conference anyway. Gulf Coast lost both games during the regular season to Lipscomb, including most recently losing by 15 at Lipscomb. So, maybe Lipscomb will come in thinking this might be a little bit easy to beat them. Lipscomb finished the season winning 3 of 4. This is not something I'm going to be involved in either. Lipscomb is a 4-point favorite, but this is another one I probably would lean towards taking the points here, man. I think it could be a competitive game, even though I do think Lipscomb has a chance to make a run in this tournament. They are a decent team in this conference. I think they are the 3rd best team in this conference, behind Central Arkansas and Austin Peay. But we will see, man. Lipscomb, they were supposed to be the best team in this conference this year, and they didn't live up to expectations. We'll see what happens here. Gulf Coast seemed to have a pretty decent crowd at their game, though, in Jacksonville. So it seems like, even though they're in Fort Myers, I believe, it seems like they have a lot of fans traveling across the state of Florida for this. Lipscomb, I believe, is in Nashville, I want to say, so they do have to travel a little bit further. Bellarmine is in Louisville, by the way, and Central Arkansas, I assume, is somewhere near Little Rock, but I have no idea. They're in the center of Arkansas, okay? All right. The next game in that conference, those are afternoon games. Getting into the evening portion of the A-Sun, Stetson is playing Austin Peay, which I think is the 10 seed versus the 2 seed. Stetson, they're a team that, like I said, every team in this conference shoots a lot of threes, but Stetson is the extreme of that. They take more than half of their shots from 3-point range, I'm pretty sure. And if they're hitting them, they're going to win the game. And if they're not, they're going to be horrible. And, in fact, they were hitting a lot of them in the game against Eastern Kentucky, who also takes a lot of threes. Stetson, I told you I leaned to Stetson in that game. They were like a 4-point dog in that game, and they blew Eastern Kentucky out, man. And it was all 3-point shots, Both teams actually hit a lot of threes in the game. Stetson, actually, they were the better team, actually, all around. They held on to the ball. They didn't turn it over. That was a big reason why they won. They also won the rebounding battle, so they actually legitimately outplayed Eastern Kentucky. Now they got momentum coming into this against Austin Peay, but I don't know, man. They lost at home by 12 to Austin Peay. They did lose on the road by 8 to Austin Peay. So they did kind of give Austin Peay a little bit of a scare the last time they played them. Austin Peay were 16.5-point favorites in that home game against Stetson, and they didn't really do that well. And in fact, Stetson was winning the game in the second half. So I think Austin Peay might actually take them a little bit more seriously because of that. Because this is the last time they played, and Stetson was winning for half the game, almost even more. I think that might have Austin Peay a little bit more focused than you might think in this game. I think Austin Peay definitely should win. Austin Peay also lost their last 2 games, but you remember I gave you guys Bellarmine as a play here on my show because Austin Peay, even though they were still trying to get the 1 seed, they just played their huge game against Central Arkansas, had to go on the road. I thought it was just a bad spot, and they gave them 111 points, man. So I think Austin Peay, they're going to refocus quite a bit after that. That was a horrendous effort, and they're usually better defensively than that. Not that they're a very good defensive team, really, but they're usually a lot better than that. In fact, they're in the top half, according to KenPom, actually, 147th defensively. They're actually one of the best defensive teams in this entire conference. So I think they might be able to lock it down. In this game, I would actually probably lay the points with Austin Peay. Stetson looks like they're getting the public action, which is kind of insane. 67% of tickets, 58% of the cash on them. I never want a public dog like that, man. I know they have the advantage of having played in the tournament already, and they were actually the better team in that game, but I think Austin Peay will be ready for it. If Austin Peay were 16.5-point favorites at home, 10.5 is actually kind of short. Like, I think this line should actually probably be about 12.5 on a neutral. So, although I know Stetson, they have a slight location edge because they're located in Florida, and Austin Peay is in, they're somewhere in Tennessee. I forget where, but yeah, Clarksville, I think. So hopefully they're not going to be headed back there early. They're not going to be taking the last train to Clarksville after they lose to Stetson. I don't think that's going to happen. So yes, I like Austin Peay in that one. And then the final game is a very weird game between West Georgia and Queens. Queens is up to an 8-point favorite. This Queens team, they're pretty much all offense. That's kind of what they do. They haven't played in the tournament yet either. Of course, their opponent here did. West Georgia did win. I think they actually won in a blowout, if I'm not mistaken, against a pretty putrid North Florida team, even though they were in North Florida's city. Actually, they only won by 8. I don't know. I wasn't really watching that game. So West Georgia does have a game under their belt. They lost, actually, they went 1-1 against Queens during the regular season. They lost the most recent game. The home team won each game in the regular season series. Both games are actually fairly close, so West Georgia did actually play okay against Queens in both games. I do think Queens is a little bit overrated just because their defense isn't that good. I think it's good that they lost their last regular season game, though, because you don't want to go into a break and have, multiple days, have like a close to a week off or whatever on a 4 or 5 game win streak. I don't think that that's a good thing, because it can cool you off. But on the other hand, their last game, even though it was a loss, it was a big game against Central Arkansas, so they might still have that kind of lingering in their mind, and the fact they already beat West Georgia the last time at home, but they didn't cover. They only won by 7 as an 11.5-point favorite, but the game was pretty much in hand. It wasn't really close towards the end of the game. It was a double-digit lead for Queens down the stretch, so I think they just took their foot off the gas in that one, maybe started looking ahead. This is probably the hardest game to predict in this one. The early money looks like it did drive the lineup on Queens. I think I would actually probably lean towards taking the points with West Georgia, though. We'll see what happens. And then I don't know if Queens, they probably don't have him anymore, but Queens had the worst free throw shooter in college basketball last year. I know everybody was talking about the granny shot guy in Wofford, who was really bad. He shot like 40% from the free throw line, and then when he started granny shooting, he upped it to like 65%. But Queens had a guy who was like one of their big men. It was unbelievable how bad that guy was at the free throw line. He was probably like a 30% free throw shooter. Like, it looked like he was intentionally trying to miss. He was like not even hitting the rim. Like, his free throw shots were going off the backboard. It was completely insane. I don't know if they still have that guy or not, but it was kind of hilarious. And I still have to look because I haven't seen him in a while. I got to see if Queen's coach still follows me on Twitter, man. Maybe he's just, maybe he's mad. Let me see. Who's Queen's coach? Does he still follow me? I'm going to figure it out right now. He followed me because, Grant Leonard, because he's known for wearing ugly sweaters, and I praised his Thanksgiving ugly sweater. Yeah, he still follows me. shout out to Grant Leonard, man, head coach of Queens. I love that guy. I love his dude, I have a soft spot for Queens. I kind of like for rooting interest. I kind of just root for them just because I like that guy's style. I like the ugly sweaters, man. All right, so that's the Atlantic Sun that's going on today. Missouri Valley also kicks off in the afternoon. Well, they already kicked off, but the next round kicks off at 1 p.m. with Drake against Belmont. Drake, I believe, is the 9 seed, and Belmont is the 1. Drake pulled off an upset last night against the, I thought, very underrated Southern Illinois team. Southern Illinois, very good on the defensive side, but Drake was able to win the game, man. I watched a decent chunk of that game. And, by the way, the Missouri Valley, whatever network that is, I think it was rebroadcast on ESPN Plus because I was watching the game on my TV. So I think it was on ESPN Plus as well. But their score overlay it takes up like half the screen. Like you can see here, this is the ESPN one. Like this is one of the better ones, right? Because it's not too big. It's not cumbersome. You know, it tells you everything you need to know. You see the team's records. They actually shade it in the jersey color of the team. So you could see, you know, that's really helpful. So yeah, ESPN is one of the best ones. CBS is one of the best ones as well. The Missouri Valley one that they had last night was pitiful. It literally took up half of the screen. The bottom of the screen. I'm like, dude, like, and like, it was like designed for, it was like, you know, the jitterbug, the cell phone for old people. They can't see anything. They can't hit buttons. So it's like got the huge buttons. It was like the jitterbug version of the score overlay. It was insane, dude. It was like, it was for blind people. Like my mom was over here last night for dinner and I'm like, Mom, I'm like, look at this score overlay here. And like you could read the whole thing from like across my place. She's like in the kitchen. She just looks like around the wall there. Oh, yeah, that's way too big. I'm like, yeah, I know. And my mom's, you know, old. So, yeah, she even thought it was too big. So there you go. Although I don't think her vision is that bad. Well, actually, I don't know. Everybody's vision is kind of bad at that point. Like, I don't know. Everybody wears glasses at least. But, you know, it's not like she's not blind. Let's put it that way. Belmont is, of course, the best team in this conference. They have not played yet in the tournament, though. But I think it was good that they lost their last game to Illinois State. Even though, you know, people might be talking about, well, Belmont might have had an at-large case. I don't really think so. Like, they just have not had a strong enough schedule to have an at-large case. I mean, you look at their out-of-conference schedule, it was not strong enough. I don't think they played any power conference teams, actually. But nobody's talking about them like they're talking about Miami, Ohio, because Belmont's not undefeated. Now, Belmont, they did lose that last game, so I think that's good that they're coming into this tournament not on a win streak because I think it might refocus them. And you remember I gave you guys Illinois State in that game because Belmont had already wrapped up the 1 seed in this conference. They won it by 3 games over second seed Bradley, who was not the second best team in the conference. Belmont against Drake this season, they won the last game at home by 13, and they won by 2 at Drake. So they did win both games. I think Belmont will definitely win this game. They're huge favorites here, but will they cover is a different story. You know, I mean, again, when you're a team that has momentum and you already won, and in this case, they're playing on the same floor because this entire tournament is in St. Louis. So Drake has already played a game on this floor, although every team in the conference is kind of used to this gym because the conference tournament always is played here. Belmont hasn't been in this conference for that long, though. They moved over from, like, the Atlantic Sun, I think, not that long ago. So, you know, there are some advantages that Drake has here, even though when a team pulls off an upset, sometimes I'll look to fade them, but that was not like a monumental upset or anything like that. It was like a 5-point upset for Drake yesterday. I would probably lean towards taking the points with Drake here. Belmont is up to a 13-point favorite. 78% of the tickets, 92% of the cash on them. So they look like a public side, even though they do look like they're getting the money right now, but I don't know. I think I would have a slight lean towards taking the points, but again, it's not anything that I really want anything to do with. Illinois, Chicago, and Murray State is the 4-5 matchup, and because of the way this conference bracket is set up, both of these teams have not played yet in the conference tournament, and they're playing each other. The money is coming in on Murray State. They're a 1-point favorite. 53% of the tickets, 64% of the cash on them. You know, I don't know how much I really like Murray State here, though, because Murray State, even though, yeah, they lost 3 of their last 4, they finished the season pretty cold, and I like teams that are decent teams to bounce back when they finish the season cold, and Murray State is probably like a top 4 team in this conference, but they're not good on the defensive side of things, and that's kind of the issue. Illinois-Chicago is the better defensive team here, and, you know, I kind of like better defenses, and teams like Illinois-Chicago, they're going to try to slow this thing down. Murray State wants to go fast, living up to their name, the Racers. But I tend to like the slow defensive teams in tournament settings, especially. I just think it's more beneficial to them. Like, the slow defensive team can also overcome having more time off a lot easier. The problem with Illinois-Chicago is I think they're even newer to this conference than Belmont is, so they're not quite used to playing in this tournament and in this gym, so this is a program that's unfamiliar with it, so we'll see how they respond to it. Illinois-Chicago lost 2 of their last 3 games as well, so I think having some time off will help them as well, and it should not hurt a team that doesn't really rely on offensive timing as much. Like, Murray State really relies on that. So, you know, overall in this game, I think I do lean to Illinois-Chicago slightly in this one. I think the public, even though it looks like the money's coming in on Murray State, I would think that the public would have a tendency to want Murray State here just because they have the better record, much prettier record, and everybody loves teams that score. You know what I mean? And that's what Murray State is. Yeah, they didn't finish the season hot enough, I guess, for the public to really want them, but it is an interesting game. It really could go either way, I think. It depends which team's style is going to win out here. It's definitely a style contrast in that game. It'll probably be interesting to watch. The third game in the conference, as we get to the evening games in the Missouri Valley, Valpo is playing Bradley. Valpo did play last night, and they won. They only won by 1. So I think they were like 2.5-point favorites. I thought they would win and likely cover, but they almost lost the game to Illinois State. Valpo is not a horrible team. They've been fairly competitive this year, actually, against some of the better teams in this conference. Bradley is a 4.5-point favorite. They're up from 3 to 4.5. This is the 2 versus the 10, I believe is what this is. No, 2-7. It must be the 2-7, yeah, because I think Indiana State had to have been the 10, because Valpo did wind up higher than them in the standings for sure. Yeah, this is a 2 versus 7. But you know me, I like to look for, like, if you see like a team that's a lower seed that is actually the favorite, you know what I mean? I tend to kind of like to look for things like that. Now, for Valpo, they have a game under their belt, which is good, and they didn't look that good. It was a low-scoring game. They barely won, so nobody's going to put any weight into that for Valpo. Valpo did beat Bradley the last time they played them. They beat them at home, and Bradley won the Bradley game, the game at Bradley. Both games were won by 7 points, which is interesting. So the home team won by 7 in both games of this season series here. Valpo has the momentum, though. Again, people will talk about, oh, the team doesn't have rest because they played last night, but again, like, these teams have rest coming into this tournament, so having one game under your belt is actually a good thing. Like, you're going to be ready for that next game, you know what I mean? Whereas Bradley coming in cold, I think, is not as good. They finished the season with a pretty good win over Murray State. I think I would lean to Valpo in this one, man. I think Bradley is not the second-best team in this conference. In fact, I think they're, like, probably 6th or so. Like, I think they're worse than, of course, Belmont, but I think they're worse than Illinois State, Murray State, Illinois, Chicago, Northern Iowa. So Bradley is a little bit of an overseeded team here, man. I'd probably take the points with Valpo in this one. It's a low total, too, so it's expected to be a low-scoring game in the 130s is where the total is there. And then the final game is, I think the best game in this conference tonight is Northern Iowa and Illinois State. This is a very interesting game. This is the 6 versus the 3, I believe. But these are really, really good defenses. These are the top 2 defenses in the conference. You know me, I like defense. I like the hard-nosed style of play. And Northern Iowa is like a top 20 defense in the entire country. It's just that they can't score. Illinois State has a little bit more balance than they do. And they're still quite good defensively. Northern Iowa is the public side with 75% of the tickets, 75% of the cash on Illinois State, though. So the money's coming in on Illinois State here. I don't know if I agree with that. The total is what's really crazy. The total is down to 123.5. And, I do think an under is worth consideration in this game because that's, I think, what you're going to get here. I think you're going to get an ugly, slow defensive game, which I like. It's going to be ground and pound. It's going to be slow and low. It's going to be some St. Louis barbecue in this game here. The money is indicating on Illinois State. I'm not sure that I agree with that, though. In fact, I don't think I do. But I think the under might be the better way to look at this, although we've lost a little bit of value here. And I know it seems insane to go under a low total like that, but look at the scores that these teams put up in the regular season. The last game that they played, Northern Iowa, actually, this game was way higher scoring than I thought. It was 71-69 in the last game. Illinois State won at Northern Iowa, by the way. But I think that's more of a reason to go under here because people are going to look at that and be like, oh, that flew over the total. So why would you want to take an under here? Well, look at the shooting percentages in this game. Northern Iowa shot 56% from three, 50% overall. That's not going to happen again. So Illinois State did out-rebound them, by the way, which does worry me a little bit that in that respect. And you'd think that if a team shot as well as Northern Iowa did in that game, they should have won the game, but they still lost. So that worries me about Northern Iowa here. Northern Iowa lost the game at Illinois State, too. So Illinois State did win both games during the regular season. That game, both teams shot terribly. And the game, I think this is going to be more like what we see tonight. That game landed 59-54, so it ended below 110. So I think we might see a game more like this. And that total was actually at 132.5. So the total is quite low, but it's because it's a tournament atmosphere too. But yeah, so I do like the under. Now, Illinois State was the better team in both games. They actually out-rebounded Northern Iowa big time. So I think that's probably the reason why the money is coming in on Illinois State, because I think they are probably actually the better team here, slightly. But, yeah, well, actually, I don't know if they are, because the odds makers are kind of telling you they're not, actually, right? Because they have Northern Iowa as the favorite here. And Northern Iowa has a game under their belt in the tournament. Northern Iowa won last night and didn't look very impressive against Evansville. Evansville is terrible. And Northern Iowa won by 9, but that game was pretty close towards the end of it. Northern Iowa was kind of just hanging on to like a 5-point lead in the final minutes of that game. So, yeah, I like all that about Northern Iowa, man. They already got a game under their belt. They're used to the arena. They didn't look good. It's kind of a double revenge spot for them, or maybe they will make the adjustments. But again, I do worry that Illinois State dominated them in the rebound department. So that's one thing to really worry about as far as Northern Iowa. So I can't play the game, but I actually leaned to Northern Iowa in that game. But again, we'll see. I actually think they're the slightly better team, but we will see. It would be a money line play there, but I think the under is the preferable approach in that game. All right. What else we got here? Long video, man, because I talk about every single tournament game. We got the Colonial next. I think in the Colonial, we only have one game today. It's the opening round game in the Colonial. It's at 2 p.m., and it is a nightmare of a game between Northeastern and NCAAB, who are the 13 and 12 seeds. I think every team in the conference makes the tournament. Now, here's the thing. Nobody's going to want Northeastern. They've lost, I don't even know how many games they've lost in a row. Probably 14 or something. Maybe not quite that many. What were they? They were 2-16 in conference. They've lost 12 games in a row, if I did that math right. So absolutely nobody's going to want Northeastern here, man. Who's going to want a team that's lost 12 in a row? But here's the thing about that is that, again, I think having the conference tournament is a reset, right? Like, you can just forget about all that. None of that even matters now. Break that losing momentum. You got some time off. Everybody's making fun of you. Come out and play the game. And by the way, Northeastern has 2 wins in the conference this year. One of them was against NCAAB. They beat them by 11 on the road, the only time they played them, I think. So So Northeastern was the better team in that game. I think if you look into the box score, it does prove that out. Northeastern is a terrible defensive team, though, and NCAA does have the best player in this game, which is, I always forget his name, Lewis Walker. He is the best player in this game, but I would have to lean to Northeastern. I think this game is in Washington, D.C., by the way, so the location is better for NCAA because they only have to come up from North Carolina. Northeastern's coming from Boston, but again, they could use that as kind of a reset, right? Whereas NCAA did not finish the season as bad, although they did lose their last 3 games. So they did finish the season on a bad note as well, but nobody could have finished the season worse than Northeastern did. Like, people are basically saying Northeastern's not going to win another game, and yet they're the favorite here. The odds makers are telling you they're actually a little bit better than NCAA. NCAA has 73% of the tickets and 88% of the cash. You know me, with my contrarianism, I would lean Northeastern here. It's not going to make my card or anything, but yeah, I mean, I just think the negativity has gone too far, I think. Like, oh, Northeastern's just never going to win another game. No, I think they're going to give you an effort in this one, man. I mean, nobody wants to end the season on a note that bad, so I think they will give you an effort in that one. And they're playing a winnable game. They're actually facing a team that's slightly worse than they are. So there you go. All right, then we have, I already talked about the Big South, the ASUN, Missouri Valley. The SoCon begins as well, the Southern Conference, starting at 5 p.m. I think we only have a couple of games in this conference today. The lower teams are playing in this conference. I think like the 7 through 10 teams play tonight. So the first game up is the 8-9 matchup, I believe is what this is, between, or I could be wrong about that. Is it 10 or 11 in this conference? No, it's 10, so I'm right. So I think this is the 8-9 matchup first between Citadel and Chattanooga. Now, these games are all being played in Asheville, North Carolina. So, maybe there's a little bit of a location edge for UNC Greensboro, I guess. But they're in the other game today, or tonight. Citadel and Chattanooga is the more interesting game. I think the Citadel did lose at home to Chattanooga in their last game badly by 21 points, but they actually won at Chattanooga prior to that by 7. So the road team won both games. It was a very zigzaggy type of season for these two teams against each other. Maybe the zigzag happens again here, which would mean that maybe the Citadel is worth a look here because they did lose badly at home. Chattanooga, I know they're one of the teams that people recognize their name in this conference, the MAACs. They had that one crazy conference final where they won on that ridiculous 3 buzzer beater back in 2022, which I think was the last time they made the tournament. That was a good Chattanooga team that year, though. They almost beat Illinois, I think, in the tournament that year. This Chattanooga team is not good, and the Citadel has been fairly competitive this year. Citadel did end their losing streak with a win, finishing the season on a decent note, which I think is fine. You just don't want to finish the season on a huge win streak, I think. I think they will show up. Well, both teams will show up. It's a tournament game. But I actually probably prefer Citadel here because the last time these teams played, it was a blowout win on the road for Chattanooga. Chattanooga finished the season with 3 wins in their last 4 games, looking like they're getting kind of hot at the right time, but that's exactly why you don't want to stop playing at that point. Chattanooga's a 7-point favorite here. None of these teams have played yet in the tournament. Of course, this is the opening round of the tournament. 78% of tickets, 93% of the cash on Chattanooga. I'd probably lean towards the Citadel. They're usually the Citadel and the VMI are like doormats in this conference, but the Citadel hasn't really been this year. VMI, however, has been. They're facing UNC Greensboro, who is a 7.5-point favorite. Don't see the percentages yet on this. The game is in North Carolina here. VMI has been absolutely pitiful this year, man. They're far and away the worst team in this conference, which has been a down conference this year, too. VMI only had 1 win in conference play on the entire season, which was against Chattanooga at home. VMI lost both games to UNC Greensboro. They lost at UNC Greensboro by 21. And then I think earlier in the season they lost to them as well. Let me see. Or did they only play them once? I thought they played them twice. Yeah, I don't see them. Maybe they. Oh no, they did. They lost them by 7 at home. I was gonna say I think every team in this conference plays every other team twice because that's how the 10-team setup pretty much works. Um, VMI finished the season on a horrific note, obviously. They lost a ton of games in a row as they only had that one win early in conference play, which was, in fact, I think their first conference game. I think they were 1-0 in conference play at one point. So that means they finished the season with 17 straight losses. Is that really right? That seems like it can't be right. Maybe they played some earlier season conference. No, I think that is right. It looks like that's the case. That's crazy, dude. So kind of like with Northeastern, I mean, maybe that means they could use this as a reset and show up, but I'm not so sure on this one, man. This VMI team is really bad. UNC Greensboro lost 3 of their last 4. I mean, they might overlook VMI, though, kind of take them for granted because VMI is so bad. I mean, I might lean towards taking the points there, but man, that one, yeah, that's a game that I want nothing to do with at all. I wouldn't touch that game. This is one of the games I would stay furthest away from, to be honest. I mean, this is just awful. All right. UNC Greensboro should win. I'll say that at least. All right. And then what else do we have here? The Ohio Valley continues at 8 p.m. on ESPNU. The Ohio Valley is going to be, I think they might be the first team that's going to have their auto bid clinched, or first conference, I mean, to have their auto bid clinched, because we're already in the semifinals. And then I think the final will be tomorrow night. UT Martin is playing Tennessee State in the, what is this? This is the 3 versus 2? Is that what this is? No, I think it's the 4. No, it's the 4 versus 1. Yeah. Tennessee State is the 1 seed. UT Martin, they've been the best team in this conference for most of the season, but there's not a huge gap between most of these teams. As I've told you guys, I think Morehead State is a fraudulent 2 seed, but other than that, I think Tennessee State, SEMO, and UT Martin, I think one of those teams is going to win this thing. UT Martin didn't look good last night. They came in cold. They faced an Eastern Illinois team who pulled off an unexpected upset in the prior game against SIU Edwardsville as, probably whatever they were, 6.5-point dogs maybe in that one. And Eastern Illinois put in another good performance last night. UT Martin barely got by, but that makes me like UT Martin here because when you have a team that is a pretty good team and they don't do well and they, fail to cover and almost lose the game as a big favorite, like they did, they were 7.5-point favorites here. I like to look at that team in the next game. Plus, they came into the tournament cold. Eastern Illinois already had a game under their belt. This entire tournament is being played in the same location in, where is it? I think this is in Evansville. Yeah, Evansville, Indiana. So Eastern Illinois had, was already used to the venue, but now that advantage kind of flips to UT Martin in this game because they played last night. They got kind of a warm-up. They got a scare. They didn't play well. And they played Tennessee State the game before that. So Tennessee State, in their last game, they played UT Martin and blew them out at UT Martin 67-42. UT Martin, both teams are going to remember that, man. And UT Martin's probably going to be the team that has the adjustments to make here. UT Martin in this game, they had a horrible game in the game. Just had a horrible shooting performance, and that's really kind of what led to it. Although they got out-rebounded, and that's what scares me about UT Martin here is Tennessee State totally dominated them on the boards in that game, so I don't like that. UT Martin also lost at Tennessee State, so I don't know if maybe there's a matchup problem here. That's what you have to figure out. Like, when a team loses to the same team twice during the regular season, is it a matchup thing? Is it, misleading? I think the first game was a little bit misleading because UT Martin led 61% of that game and they won the rebounding battle. So I don't think there is like a matchup problem here. UT Martin just shot terribly in that game too, and Tennessee State shot really well in the game, 50% from the field. UT Martin turned the ball over a ton. So I wouldn't say that this is like a matchup thing. I think you could argue this is going to be double revenge for UT Martin here. The fact that they got absolutely embarrassed in their home finale against Tennessee State is going to motivate them here, man. And the fact that they barely won last night. I like UT Martin in this game. Tennessee State hasn't played yet in this tournament, and they finished the season on a 4-game win streak, beating 4 of the top 6 seeds in the conference to finish the season. finishing with their last game, winning on the road against UT Martin in an absolute blowout. And now they're playing them again right now. I would have to lean to UT Martin here, man. See what the market is doing here. The market is completely disagreeing with me. The market is all over Tennessee State here. Tennessee State's up to a 3-point favorite. 87% of the cash on them, 50-50 on the tickets. I don't understand that at all. I don't know why the public would want anything to do with Tennessee Martin right now. Yeah, I disagree with it. I think Tennessee Martin is the side to look at there, especially when you think it's going to be a low-scoring game. You're getting 3 points. Yeah, that's the way I would lean in that one. And then the second game in this conference, I actually have a play on it, but the line has been kind of moving all over the place here. So this is a game where you want to kind of try to find the best number that you can on this. I'm going to give out a play on Southeast Missouri State here on the money line. It might make sense to look for the spread now, though. I mean, I have not bet any of these games yet, so which sucks because maybe I'm missing out on some line value here. Southeast Missouri State had dropped from a 3-point favorite to a 1.5-point favorite. Now they're up to a 2.5-point favorite. So this line is kind of roller coastering. 75% of tickets, 74% of the cash on them. That does worry me that it looks like they're a public side here, but this is one of those games, man, where it's the 3 versus the 2, so it's not like that weird that the 3 is a favorite over the 2, but this is where kind of the rubber meets the road here, man. Like Morehead State, I've been talking about how they're they're a drastically overseeded 2 seed in this tournament. They are not that good, and I'm going to show you KenPom's numbers in a minute here. Morehead State finished the season as hot as possible, 7 wins in a row. So who's going to want to fade Morehead State when they've won 7 games in a row? Although, yes, the last time they lost was against Southeast Missouri by 12 on the road. They did win at home by 2 against Southeast Missouri. But if you dig into those box scores, and I know you could argue for the zigzag, because Southeast Missouri won the most recent game against them, maybe Morehead will make adjustments. But look at the game that Morehead won. Southeast Missouri State was winning 86% of that game, and they wound up losing. And yes, Morehead did out-rebound them a little bit. Southeast Missouri really hung onto the ball in that game, didn't turn it over a lot, but Southeast Missouri did have 10 more field goal attempts in the game, which I do think, even though a lot of that is because of the turnovers, I do think that kind of indicates they were the better team in the game. Morehead shot ridiculously in the game, 57%. So they did have kind of an outlier shooting performance. And then Southeast Missouri, of course, won the second game by double digits. They led 93% of the way. So you're talking about a Southeast Missouri team that led almost 100% of both games against Morehead this year, and they did win the rebound battle in the second game. They weren't as good in the turnover department, but they did have more field goal attempts again. Both teams actually shot fairly well in this game, so not really much to see there, although Southeast Missouri did get to the line more. So I usually don't like teams that don't like to look at a team that had kind of a huge free throw disparity, although it wasn't that big. But Southeast Missouri State's the better team. They already played in this tournament last night, which I think will give them momentum. They barely beat Lindenwood in the 3-6 matchup. Lindenwood's not bad, though. But that was Southeast Missouri really got a scare in that one, man. And the fact that now they have a game under their belt. They played in this arena last night. Not this game that I'm scrolling over. That was a home game for them, whatever that was, against Tennessee Tech. That was their final home game. Anyway, again, I think when a team has one game in the tournament, it gets the nerves out of the way. You win, you get the game under your belt. Southeast Missouri did not cover in that game. Now they're playing a Morehead team that is really not good on the defensive side of things. I think might have their momentum disrupted by having some time off here. And if you look at that run that they made at the end of the season, 2 of the wins were pretty good against UT Martin and Tennessee State, but the rest of the wins, the other 5 wins, were against all the bottom dwellers in the conference, so it wasn't as good as it looks. And then we look at good old KenPom here. He's got Southeast Missouri 226, which I know doesn't sound good, but he has them 150th on defense, so they're actually the considerably better defensive team here. They do play fast, which is weird. A fast-paced defensive team is odd. And they're 74th in luck, I know. But look at what Morehead is. Morehead is the second luckiest team in the country, only to Liberty. And they try to play slow, but they play no defense. They're 323rd defensively, which is abysmal. So even though Morehead is, slightly better on the offensive side by about 20, 30 ranking spots or whatever, there's a huge defensive disparity where you have Southeast Missouri is almost 200 ranking spots better defensively. And both teams are lucky, but Morehead is just an extreme luck team this year. That's what I like, man. We're getting the better defense here with Southeast Missouri. I got to see what the best number we can get is on the money line here. I'm going to have to look if I'm actually going to go bet this thing. Let me see here. You can lay 1.5 with them at some spots still. A couple of the spots still have that. One of the spots still has a couple of the spots still have a money line right around this. You know what? I think this is one that I got to just do. I'm going to do it right now. Let me see here. I'm going to grab the money line on this one right now. But, it makes you log in and whatever. I hate this. For the first time, you're seeing me actually do it live on the show. Hang on. Actually, I don't know. Have I done it before on the show? I don't know. Let me see. I'm going to do it right now, man. Where are we at? Because I think the line's going to go back up on this one probably. Find it. Dude, I'm looking at Bally bets right now. They don't have a, their search mechanism is absolutely pathetic. It's absolutely terrible. But let me look at this because I got to get through all the breakdowns here, man. But we don't have a whole lot else after the conference tournaments. So we have a few other big games. One of my other play is not in the conference tournaments, though. So where are we at here? I'm looking, man. They need a search mechanism on this thing, man. This is bad. Here it is, Southeast Missouri. All right. I got to figure out what the bet amount is going to be on this. All right. Yes, I think that's close. All right, we're doing it. All right, Southeast Missouri. Anyway, okay. Sorry, guys. All right. So that's the Ohio Valley there. You could lay the points if you want to in that game too. Then we have, all right, what else do we have to go through? We've gone through most of the conference tournaments now, I think. We have the Sun Belt continuing with Southern Miss. I was wrong about both of the games last night from a straight-up perspective, I was. Southern Miss came in cold, and they beat James Madison. Even though James Madison, I think, is the better team, they were the favorite, and they came into the game with momentum. Didn't matter. Southern Miss got the win there. Now they get Texas State, Texas State is coming into the game cold. Now, these two teams played once during the regular season, and Texas State won. No, they played twice, my mistake. The home team won both games. Southern Miss won by 10 at home. Texas State won by 7 at home, which was the more recent one. Now, Southern Miss does have a game under their belt, and these games are all in the same arena in Pensacola. So Southern Miss does have a little bit of an edge from that perspective, the fact that they played last night and they won. So I think they do have some momentum. Texas State finished the season with a nice win against one of the top teams in the conference, App State. So I don't love that. Texas State was unbelievably hot down the finish, although they did lose their second-to-last game inexplicably to Louisiana. But they won 8 of their last 9 games, I think. So I don't like teams that are that hot, and then they get that momentum a little bit disrupted, even though they only won their final game. I think Texas State coming into this with a lack of momentum and Southern Miss having the win last night. I'm going to lean to Southern Miss in this one. The money is agreeing with me on that, even though Texas State flipped to a 1-point favorite. 56% of tickets, 91% of the cash on Southern Miss. I agree with the money in that one, the money percentage there. I like Southern Miss in that one. And then we have the other Sun Belt game is, where is it at? It's Georgia Southern at South Alabama. This Georgia Southern team, man. Now they just upset the best power-rated team in the country, Arkansas State, who wound up being the 7th seed because they lost every tiebreaker in the 6-way second-place tie. Absolutely ridiculous. This Georgia Southern team, I still think they're not good. They're a lucky team. They got a big upset last night. So even though they do have momentum, I guess, because they're coming into this game but then they've now won 2 games, man. So they're going to have to play a 3rd game, and now you have to start gauging, like, sometimes the momentum does continue, but when you have 2 games in a row that you've won, 2 nights in a row, you're coming off a 7.5-point upset now. I kind of think this might be the end of the road for Georgia Southern, man. South Alabama is a pretty legit team in this conference. South Alabama did lose their final game of the season to Southern Miss, so they didn't finish the season on a hot note or anything. So they're not going to have their momentum disrupted or anything like that. I think they're the better team, which the odds makers are telling you that. They're a 5.5-point favorite now, up from 3.5. The money's coming back on Georgia Southern, though. 83% of tickets on South Alabama, 92% of the cash on Georgia Southern. I think South Alabama has kind of a location edge here, too, because I think they're somewhere in the area of, like, Mobile, so going from there to Pensacola, pretty close. I think they're going to have a decent fan base at this game. Although I know Georgia Southern's probably not too far away either, though. But I think South Alabama wins the game. The money is coming in on Georgia Southern. I'm going to kind of lean towards laying it with South Alabama, but I don't have a strong opinion on that. I apologize for the banner still being up there. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about that game, really. It's a tough handicap in that game, really, though. The money is really all over Georgia Southern there, but we'll see if dude, again, it could switch by the time the game tips off, you know what I mean? So you can't just look at the percentages. All right. College basketball taking a while to get through, man. We do have the MAAC in action as well, with Sacred Heart being, I think, the 9 seed, maybe? I forget what they are. I don't remember how this tournament is structured. They beat Iona in an upset last night by double digits. Now they got to play Merrimack. But, of course, that means Sacred Heart does have a game under their belt in this arena because the whole tournament is being played in Atlantic City. Merrimack coming into this, they finished the season pretty hot. I mean, they were on a pretty massive win streak. They did lose it at Canisia, so they bounced back with a win against Niagara. They won 9 of their last 10 games on. That's the type of team that I don't exactly love. Merrimack's an interesting team, man. They have one of the best turnover margins in the country. They're a very small team. They hit a lot of threes. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They're very bad in the paint. They get out-rebounded consistently. But they don't turn the ball over, and they cause a lot of turnovers. So they're an interesting team where most of that is good, except for the rebounding thing. Sacred Heart is definitely the worst of these two teams. Sacred Heart, Merrimack beat them by 17 at home and by 8 on the road. And I don't think it was really that misleading. We all know Merrimack is the better team here. Merrimack is a 9-point favorite. That opener at 1 was not accurate. I think it opened at about 7.5 or 7, but it's all the way up to 9. But now the money is coming in on Sacred Heart. I would not lay 9 points with Merrimack, man. I mean, I think they'll probably win, but 79% of the tickets on Merrimack, 53% of the cash on Sacred Heart. The total's low, 141.5. Merrimack, they play slow as well. They don't play a lot of high-scoring games, so laying points with them, not something I would want to do, especially this many points, even though they're against a weak team. They're against a team that did play already and got a game under their belt in this venue, which will help. And by the way, Merrimack, they're new to this conference in the MAAC, so they're not very familiar with this venue, even though they have traveled to New Jersey this year during the regular season or whatever, I'm pretty sure, because they had to play St. Peter's, Ryder, whatever. But, yeah, they're not familiar with this tournament, and Sacred Heart already has a game under their belt here, so I would actually lean to taking the points with Sacred Heart there, but not a strong opinion, really. And then we do have one other game, I think, in the MAAC, which is Fairfield and St. Peter's. Is that all we have? We just have, yeah, this is a weird tournament structure, man. So they're staggering it. So the 2 seed and the 1 seed play their games today, which are Merrimack as the 1, St. Peter's is the 2. But I've been telling you, I don't think St. Peter's is a legit 2 seed in this tournament. And then I guess Siena as the 3 seed, and then the Quinnipiac-Marist game, the 4-5, which is a very interesting game. Those games, I guess, are going to be played tomorrow. So they stagger it. They don't play any afternoon games. I don't know. St. Peter's is up from 2 to 4 here now, laying 4 points. They got 94% of the cash, 50-50 on the tickets. So the money looks like it is on St. Peter's here on their side. I think St. Peter's is a fraudulent 2 seed in this conference. I don't think they're the second best team. I think they're actually like 5th or 6th. I think they're worse than Merrimack, of course, but also Siena, Marist, Quinnipiac. So I think they're probably the 5th best team in the conference. St. Peter's finished the season with a win over Marist. They won their last 2 games. They're playing Fairfield, who they did beat not that long ago at home by 9. They won on the road against Fairfield as well by 4. Yes, St. Peter's is the better team, but Fairfield got the win last night. Fairfield did better than I thought. They won by double digits against Manhattan. Manhattan's a pretty bad team. Fairfield, they've been okay in the conference this year. They've beaten some of the best teams in the conference this year. I think they can put up a competitive effort here, man. And again, they're used to the venue because they played last night. They had a fairly easy win, so they have momentum. They're not going to be that tired. St. Peter's coming into this cold, although St. Peter's, they're location-wise, they're close to Atlantic City because they're a New Jersey school, so their crowd will show up for this. I think I would probably take the points with Fairfield in that one, though, although the money is disagreeing with me. But I'll admit that I don't know if I'm that great at handicapping these conference tournaments, man. I think I'm better at the bigger conferences. But really, I'm just looking for these, like, kind of flip spots where basically you have, like, the lesser-seeded team is actually the better team. And I'm looking to fade, like, over-seeded teams. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I do it. So hopefully we can get that win tonight. Hindian, what's up, man? My live's not showing on YouTube? What? Well, thank you, sir. Thanks for hanging out. What's up, man? Everything's working, right? It looks like my mic is working. I'm assuming I'm live on YouTube. I don't know if any notifications telling me otherwise in StreamYard here. I can look. Well, you're watching me on YouTube, so I'm assuming it's working. I don't know about the Twitter. All right. We do have more conference tournaments that we still have to talk about here. So I wound up talking about almost every game here, man. So that was the MAAC. Let's see, what else do we have? The Summit League is also in action here. Thank you, sir. All right, luckily we don't have too many NHL and NBA games to talk about, so Omaha and South Dakota are playing. This is a pretty interesting one, actually. Omaha, we know they won the conference last year. People might remember that. Omaha lost both regular season matchups to South Dakota, yet they're the higher power-rated team. They lost at home when they were 6.5-point favorites. And if you look at this game, it was kind of misleading, man. I mean, Omaha shot 5% from three-point range. They hit 1-3 in the game, even though they were kind of the better team. They had more rebounds, fewer turnovers. They had more possessions. They just were ice cold from 3, and they couldn't hit anything. And they actually shot really poorly from the free throw line as well. So that's kind of what did them in that game. And then they lost pretty badly really recently. In the second to last regular season game, they got bombed by South Dakota at South Dakota. They lost by 17. But if you look at this game, Omaha out-rebounded them again in the game. They didn't shoot well from the free throw line, so I guess maybe Omaha just sucks at the free throw line. They again missed a lot of their threes, although they're not really a three-point shooting team. But this game was closer than the final score makes it look, man. South Dakota did outshoot them. The possession-wise, the teams had a similar amount of possessions in the game. So I think the score was misleading. I think that was a lot closer than it looked. So I like Omaha in this game. I believe that these two teams, these teams have not played yet in the conference tournament. This conference tournament is a weird structure. I think this is the 4-5 matchup. I think neither team has played yet. And the Summit League, they only play at night, so they stagger their game, like they stagger the days. So some of the teams play one night, some of the teams play the next night. But that also means that in this conference, you get a setup where some teams don't have to win like a bunch of games in a row every single night. I would go with Omaha here, man. I think it's misleading that they lost both regular season games. They're the better team. The money is coming in on Omaha, but they're up from 2.5 to 3.5 now. So you missed out on a little bit of value on that one for now. 75% of tickets, 97% of the cash on Omaha. I'm worried about the Southeast Missouri game, man. I am, with that percentage that we're seeing in the market right now. But yeah, Omaha, I would much rather lay the 2.5 than the 3.5, but I would still probably lay it with Omaha here, although 3.5 is getting a little crazy, but they are getting the money, 75% of tickets, 97% of the cash, which is probably not accurate, but The money is coming in on them. The game is in South Dakota, though, not at South Dakota's home arena, but the whole tournament gets played at Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So Sioux Falls, pregame has that wrong with Sioux Fall, but yes. Anyway, so South Dakota, I guess you could debate that they have a location edge there, but I don't think it comes into play that much there. And then the other Summit game tonight is Denver and North Dakota. These teams haven't played yet in the tournament either, I don't think. This is the 3-6 matchup. So the winner of that first game is going to play North Dakota State, and the winner of this game is going to play St. Thomas. Both of those teams won last night, the 1 and the 2 seeds. Now, this one is interesting because you have the 3 versus the 6. Denver is the 6 seed. North Dakota's the 3, but I've been telling you Denver is actually the better team, and they're the favorite here. So the odds makers are indeed telling you they're the better team. They're laying 3 here. It's down from 4. I do like Denver in this game. Again, when you have the lower seed being the favorite, that should jump out at you and tell you something, man. Because, like, the odds makers are telling you the seedings are inaccurate. North Dakota's been kind of a fraud, like, pretty much all year, I think, in this conference. They've had some good wins, but I don't really necessarily want to fade them because they got absolutely annihilated in their last game by North Dakota State, so they might show up with a little bit of effort. They did lose at home to Denver in their last game. They actually won on the road against Denver, so the road team won both games in this matchup. If the zigzag continues, then North Dakota might put in a better effort here. Denver is definitely better than their record looks. They played pretty well down the stretch. They lost their final game. They're coming off a real bad loss, too, in their final regular season game. They lost to an atrocious Oral Roberts team. So they should bounce back from that. So I do like Denver in the game, but it's not really strong enough for me to, give it out as a play or anything like that, in my opinion. So take from that what you want to. But, yeah, I'll lean Denver in that one. And that is the way that I look at that game. I just pretty much I'm going to default. If you see like a seeding mismatch like that where the lower seeded team is actually the favorite, I'm going to look that way, You got a notification. Oh, interesting. Yeah, YouTube on the left bar there. Yeah, they show like who's live right now with that setup. Yeah, I know what you mean. It has like a red like icon on it. I know what you mean. All right. Okay. And then, what else do we have left here, man? That was the Summit. So we talked about the Summit games. I think all we got left to talk about here is the West Coast Conference. They play late at night. They only have night games as well. I think they have 2 games. Yeah, so they always have 2 games because they have a similar structure to the Sun Belt. But it's on the West Coast, so they're late night Eastern. These games are all at the Orleans Arena in Las Vegas. Portland, as I told you, they did get the win last night. I thought they would against Pepperdine because they'd actually somehow lost both regular season games to a very bad Pepperdine team. Portland got the win. Now they got to face Washington State, who hasn't played yet. And Washington State is not familiar with this venue, so Portland does have some advantages here a little bit, although Washington State was in the Pac-12 not too long ago, so I guess they're still kind of used to playing in Vegas, I guess, but the Orleans is specific to the West Coast Conference. But playing in Vegas is a whole thing, because you can get distracted by the party atmosphere of Vegas. So, like, teams that come from conferences where they didn't play in Vegas are not used to it, but at least for the former Pac-12 teams, they are at least kind of used to it because the Pac-12 would play their tournament in Vegas as well. Portland does have the advantage of having played last night and won an easy game last night. So they do have momentum. They have a game out of the way in the conference, in the tournament, in the arena. So they're used to it. Washington State finished the season on a bad note. They lost 3 games in a row, and losing to Pepperdine in their final game was pretty bad. But going to Pepperdine, kind of a weird venue to have to go to. Washington State's not as bad as that. They're certainly not good. They're far away from the days where they were a decent team in the Pac-12. I think moving over to the West Coast has really hurt both them and Oregon State because they had to start playing in all these unfamiliar venues, and they're not familiar with the travel that's involved in this conference and whatever. It just kind of becomes a thing where it kind of hurts you. I think it hurts you. I think it hurts you that you're playing a lot of lesser competition too. Now, in the regular season, Washington State crushed Portland at home by 30, and they did win on the road by 5 as well. So Washington State, they are the better team. They did win both regular season matchups. I think a 30-point win is almost always misleading, though. And Portland does have the advantage of having played already, and Washington State's a little bit less familiar with playing in this specific tournament. Washington State's up to a 6-point favorite. I would probably take the points with Portland if I was going to play the game, but again, I don't have a good read on the game, so there's no way I'm going to do it, but that would kind of be my read there. And then we have San Diego and Seattle in the other game late at night with so I think, I don't even know what seeds these teams are at this point because the seeding is just kind of crazy, where you have the best teams don't play until later on in the conference tournament, or the high seeds don't, but most of them are the better teams. San Diego ended a bad, I should say, long losing streak with a nice win last night. It was an upset against Loyola Marymount. I watched the end of that game. Good win for San Diego against Loyola Marymount. It ended a losing streak, and it got them a game under their belt in this arena, so that's good. And Seattle coming into this game, they're not as familiar with playing in this venue either. They came over from the WAC, so the WAC did also play and does play their conference tournament in Las Vegas as well, but at a different site. So Seattle they're at least used to playing in Las Vegas, but not used to playing in this arena specifically. Now, they finished the season on a 3-game win streak, and they haven't played for a while, so that might disrupt their momentum. Seattle's a team that doesn't rely on momentum as much, though, because they're more of a defensive-oriented team, even though I think they actually play fast and play defense, which is kind of a weird combination. They play kind of a mid-tempo. They're really good on the defensive side and terrible offensively. They're a very imbalanced team, Seattle is. San Diego, again, they have a game under their belt. What did they do in the regular season against Seattle? They lost on the road by 11. In an unfamiliar venue, of course, because going to Seattle, you're not familiar with the venue. And I think it looks like they only played once during the regular season. I think that does happen occasionally. Some of these teams only play once. So these teams are pretty unfamiliar with each other, which, might mean it's going to be a feeling out process. So an under, I guess, might be where they'll look because Seattle plays a lot of unders because they can't score. They play defense. San Diego, though, they probably won't be tired yet after playing one game. And with the teams being unfamiliar with each other, maybe they'll feel each other out. So maybe an under makes sense. The total is low in the 140s. Seattle's up to a 10-point favorite. There's no way that I would lay double digits. They're up from 7.5 to 10. With a team that can't score and all they do is play defense, even if they are the better team, you can't lay double digits, man. I don't think so. San Diego with a game under their belt in the tournament, and they're more familiar with it. I'd probably take the points with San Diego, but if I was going to play it, but that's not something that I want to do. All right, let's get into the non-conference tournament games now. I always talk about the other TV games and whatever. CBS Sports at 6 p.m. has, for some reason, they have Northern Illinois and Akron. I guess because it's Akron. Akron gets the TV billing because they're like the team that's considered to be the team that has the shot to take out Miami, Ohio in the MAAC tournament if it gets to that. Northern Illinois is a very bad team. They've lost 4 games in a row, but I think they will at least try to show up for a game against Akron. I don't believe these teams have played at all this season. This is the final regular season game. Northern Illinois, doesn't want to end the season on a horrible note like that. They're not making the MAAC tournament because the bottom, I think, 5 teams get dropped from the tournament. So Northern Illinois is eliminated from the tournament. So this will be their last game that they're playing. So I think unless they get invited to any of those invitational tournaments, which they probably won't. So I think they're going to show up. It's their last game. They get to play one of the best teams in the conference. Akron, they get a TV game. It's their final home game. They might show up for that reason, but covering is a different story here, man. And they're going to be looking forward to the conference tournament now. They do have a chance. Actually, no, they don't have a chance. They're locked into the 2 seed because even if they win and Miami, Ohio loses tonight and they pull into a tie with Miami, Ohio has the tiebreaker because they beat Akron. So Akron does not have the tiebreaker. So Akron is locked into the 2 seed in the MAAC tournament, so they might be looking ahead there. So I would only look towards Northern Illinois in this game. I know it's a really, really ugly idea. Akron might show up again just because it's a home game and because they have this isolated TV game. They're a 22.5-point favorite, and for some reason we see 71% of the tickets and cash on Northern Illinois. But you know the public is not playing Northern Illinois in this game, so. But I would lean towards taking the points in that one. Not a strong opinion at all. ESPN 2 at 7 p.m. as VCU and Dayton. This is a good game between two of the better teams. I keep forgetting about Dayton. Dayton is one of the better teams in the Atlantic 10, man. It's St. Louis, then VCU. Then I think Dayton and George Washington are both the next two best teams in this conference. VCU is coming off a pretty nice win over George Mason, even though George Mason's not actually as good as people think they are based on their record. VCU actually probably didn't cover that number against them. No, they were 9.5-point favorites, and they only won by 5. So I guess you could make the argument that they'll show up more focused, but I'm not sure about that because I think the teams, have more of a tendency to think that the team is as good as their record is, you know what I mean? So I think they consider that to be a pretty big game. It was their final home game. They already blasted Dayton at home by 26 points, so they might not have full focus against Dayton here. This will be a big game for Dayton. It's their final home game. The last time they were on this floor, they beat St. Louis. They've been good on this floor. They do have 6 wins in a row, They just barely got by Richmond in their last game. Richmond's not good. That was a road game. Now they're back at home. They get a TV game. It'll be a big game. They get to host a TV game against a good VCU team. They get a chance to play spoiler, too, because I think if VCU loses to Dayton, that's really going to hurt VCU's resume. And I think people kind of know that, VCU, they're a bubble team. We see them in the bracketologies right now, so they kind of need to get this win for that reason. So I would lean to Dayton here. It would be a money line play. 59% of tickets, 66% of the cash on Dayton. I think the pressure might be on VCU here, man, and Dayton can play maybe a little bit looser here. Not having to worry about an at-large resume, really. So, yeah, I would lean to Dayton in that one. 59% of tickets, 66% of the cash on Dayton. Money seems to agree. The game that I'm going to have a play on is we're going to take the points with Buffalo. I think you might be able to get 8.5 on this now. It looks like it was at 8 for a bit. We're going to fade Toledo. Toledo's got 79% of tickets and only 59% of the cash on them. So I think the money is agreeing with this one. I think you'll be able to find 8.5 on this, probably around 8. But, of course, you know me. You know the reason why we're fading Toledo here, man. I know it's Toledo's final home game, but you know what their big game was, man. That was their Super Bowl. They went to Miami, Ohio, and almost beat Miami, Ohio. That would have been a monster game. Everybody's trying to take out Miami, Ohio at this point, man, and they almost did that. Played them to within 2, and yet another really close game against Miami, Ohio. And by the way, Western Michigan, after they almost beat Miami, Ohio, I told you I thought Western Michigan still had some reason to show up because they were trying to avoid missing the MAAC tournament, and it was their final home game. Well, guess what? They still lost to Ball State. So coming off a game against Miami, Ohio, man, it will hang you over. Toledo, they're already going to be in the MAAC tournament. Yes, they do have a chance to lock up the 4 seed here, and yes, this is their final home game, but I just don't think that's enough. I think they put all their effort into that Miami, Ohio game, and I think this is a sandwich spot because I don't think they care that much about their seeding here. They're going to be looking ahead to the conference tournament now. They're going to be in it. I don't think they're going to care that much about playing Buffalo here. And Buffalo, they're a team, I know, I gave you guys Buffalo in their last game. Buffalo's not as good as their overall record looks. I understand all that. I've been saying that. But they're coming off a couple of bad games, man. They had a game where I gave you guys Buffalo against, did I give you guys them against Central Michigan? I think I did, and they lost the game outright. So that was pretty bad. And then they won their final home game, but they didn't cover against Eastern Michigan. So they had kind of a bad game in this game, too. So they're coming off of 2 kind of lackluster games in their last 2 home games here. And I think Buffalo will show up here in this game against Toledo, man. They did not play them this season, I don't think so. You know, I just think it's a horrible spot for Toledo. And Buffalo, they're trying to avoid missing the MAAC tournament completely, actually. I think there's a chance they miss the MAAC tournament because the bottom 5 teams miss it. And right now that would be Ball State, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, and Northern Illinois. So the 3 Michigans are all in there. But Buffalo is only 1 game away from that, man. And let's see. They did beat Ball State both times, so they do have the tiebreaker against Ball. They went 1-1 against UMass, so I don't know if they have the tiebreaker against UMass or not. Those are the teams that they need the tiebreakers against, pretty much. But I guess, yeah, you know what? I guess they can't fall out. I guess they cannot miss the MAAC tournament now because they can't fall behind Ball State. But, well, you got to pay attention to Central Michigan, too, though. Let me see. But I don't know, because UMass is still in the thick of it, too. They lost to Central. Yeah, Buffalo does not have the tiebreaker against Central Michigan because they lost that game against Central Michigan. And that was the only time they played them. So that's bad for Ball State, man. Or, excuse me, for Buffalo, excuse me. So, yeah, Buffalo is still trying to make sure they avoid falling out of the MAAC tournament. So they do have reason to show up here. So, yes, we're taking Buffalo for all those reasons. That just makes it better. I mean, Toledo's already in a bad spot, but the fact that I think Buffalo has motivation here and they're a big dog, that's even better. So, yes, one more shot for Buffalo to get us a win. And this time they're not a favorite. They're an underdog. So, give it to me, Buffalo. Let's go. All right. We got some other games that might be somewhat interesting. There are some games with, I guess, some ramifications in the Ivy. I don't know if we really care. The Ivy League isn't set yet, man, so I don't know what I was looking at with that Ivy bracket yet. The Ivy League is not totally set yet, although it looks like it will probably be Yale, Harvard, Penn, and Cornell, but I think the teams could shift around a little bit. And Harvard does play tonight against Columbia, and they're not a huge favorite at home, but I don't really have much to say about that game. Although I think it is road revenge for Columbia. I mean, Harvard is trying to hang on to the 2 seed there, so the pressure might be on Harvard a little bit. Probably would have a slight lean to taking the points with Columbia, but I don't have a strong opinion there. CBS Sports at 8 p.m., UCF and West Virginia in what some people might consider to be a bubble game. UCF looks like they're pretty solidly in at this point. I mean, a 20-win Big 12 team, is not going to get left out of the tournament, even though I don't like UCF's metrics that much. I think they're in, and West Virginia, with their most recent loss, they're probably going to be out. But you never know, man. I mean, you never know what teams are going to do. UCF is coming off of a really good-looking loss, if you want to call it that. They lost to Oklahoma State 111-104 in overtime. And when teams play really crazy, high-scoring games, they tend to be like a public side because, this team scored a lot. You know what I mean? That was a good loss, the public will say, even though it was against a non-tournament Oklahoma State team. Oklahoma State's been okay this year. Okay, get it? West Virginia coming off a bad loss on the road to Kansas State. They were in kind of a letdown spot against after beating BYU, so I thought that was a tricky spot for West Virginia. But now this is West Virginia's final home game. They're going to try to slow the pace way down, which UCF does not want to do. UCF plays fast, so West Virginia going way, way slow, low and slow, and West Virginia is the way better defense here. I kind of like West Virginia in this one, man. It's their final home game. They should get up for it. I think they'll give you some effort here. They're hosting it kind of an isolated TV game, which usually gets that home team a little bit extra motivated. The money's coming in UCF, though, which I don't really agree with. West Virginia's a 3.5-point favorite. I don't love laying points with hardcore defensive teams that slow the pace down like that, but it's not too many points here. 56% of the tickets on West Virginia, 79% of the cash on Central Florida. So the money is indicating on UCF for now, but I kind of lean towards West Virginia there. All right, and then we have getting into the more interesting TV games. Fox Sports 1 at 9 p.m. Number 18, St. John's, is at Seton Hall to finish off the regular season. St. John's still has a chance to overtake UConn in the Big East standings for the 1 seed, although I think they'd need UConn to lose because I think UConn has the tiebreaker against them. I'm not sure, though, because they split the season series. St. John's is coming off kind of a bad performance against Georgetown. They barely won in their final home game. So St. John's might actually come in with a better effort here against Seton Hall. Now, they played Seton Hall at home earlier this year, and they only won by 5. So I think St. John's will not overlook Seton Hall. Seton Hall was winning a lot of that game, so Seton Hall really did give St. John's a scare in the home game at St. John's. So I really don't see St. John's overlooking this game. It will be a huge game for Seton Hall, though. I don't really want to fade Seton Hall here either, man, because they're a good defensive team. They like to slow the game down. Both defenses are good. Seton Hall is a bubble team right now. It's their final home game. They get to play on TV, so I think they're going to show up for it. I'm mad that we lost with Xavier in that last game. I thought that was a really bad spot for Seton Hall. They somehow were able to get it done, even though Xavier was in position to get us a win in that one. Both teams are going to show up for this, man, and I think because Seton Hall plays slow, both teams are much better on the defensive side. This game looks like an under to me. The money is coming in on the under after the total did go up to 136. I like under in that game more than I like the side. St. John's is down to a 4-point favorite. 65% of tickets, 69% of the cash on St. John's. Yeah, I think I would probably lean towards laying the points with St. John's, but I think you're going to get a motivated effort, I think, out of both teams there, which makes you like the under more. So the under makes sense to me in that one. I like that more than the side. And then we have number 19, Miami, Ohio, even though they're like 87th in KenPom. They keep dropping in KenPom because they keep barely beating bad teams. Number 19, Miami, Ohio. This is the last game that stands in their way from an undefeated regular season, man, and they got to go to one of their biggest rivals, Ohio, in Athens, Ohio, in the rivalry game, the battle for the bricks. Yeah, this is going to be a crazy atmosphere, but Miami, Ohio, their crowd keeps showing up, man. Their crowd showed up in a very major way at the Kent State game, so you know their crowd is going to be showing up for this. Like, it's probably going to be close to 50-50 in this game, even though I think it's a little bit of a travel because Miami, Ohio's down, I think, in like the southwest area of Ohio. I think University of Ohio, I think, is closer to the northeast area of Ohio. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know Ohio geography well at all. I know where Cleveland and Cincinnati are, and where Columbus is, and that's basically it. Well, I've been to Columbus, so, but yeah, anyway. This is a huge game for both teams, but Miami, Ohio, you got to think all the pressure is on them here because this is it. They can get an undefeated season if they do it. So the pressure is all on them, where I think Ohio can kind of just free roll here. Like, Ohio's already in the MAAC tournament. They're not in danger of missing out on the tournament. They do have a chance to move up, I think, to the 4 seed, I think. I'm not sure about that. No, they don't, actually. They don't have the tiebreaker against Toledo. They lost both games. So Ohio is, they can't move up, but this is a huge game for them because it's their final home game. They have the chance to spoil Miami, Ohio's undefeated season. Miami, Ohio already won against Ohio at Miami, Ohio by 16. So it's possible they take Ohio a little bit lightly off of playing them like that the game prior, which wasn't that long ago. This is a huge game for Ohio. It's a big deal that they get a TV game for this game. It's going to be a fun game to watch, man. Everybody's going to be watching this game. Who would have thought that during conference tournament time, the game that's probably going to get the most viewership is going to be this game. And it's on ESPN2, not ESPN. But I think this game is going to have the viewership. It's going to be the game that gets the most views tonight, man. I believe. So, yeah, it's going to be an insane game. What do I think about the side? I would lean to Ohio, although the line looks a little bit low. But the public, they're probably going to be betting on Miami, Ohio. The public loves this Miami, Ohio team. They're a darling. They're going to want to see it happen. They're going to want to make money when it happens, getting money, winning with the completion of the undefeated season. 82% of the tickets, 94% of the cash on Miami, Ohio. They're a very public team. It is kind of telling that they're only a 5.5-point favorite. Kind of looks too easy. And KenPom does have Miami, Ohio a bit better than that. Ohio is actually not really that good of a team. KenPom, I think, has this line at like 7. But even so, I still think I would have to lean towards taking the points in this one, though, if I was going to play it, which I'm not going to do it. But because, because I'm an asshole and I hate the hype that Miami, Ohio is getting, just because I think, dude, everybody just has this team so wrong. They're the most overrated team I've ever seen. You know me. I'm trying to just, put the truth out there. And the truth is that Miami, Ohio is not as good as their record looks. So, you know me, like, I'm the type of person that would, bet Ohio just to spite Miami, Ohio. I'm not going to do it because, you can't let bias affect you that much. But, the number's just not right for it, I don't think. But I would take the points with Ohio still if I was going to play the game. Mr. Pinsey, Mr. Pinsey, and Tyson have been talking about that. You think that Ohio's going to get the win here? It's possible. I could definitely see it happening. I don't want to have my money on it, though. All right, and then the final game that we'll talk about here is an interesting Mountain West game late at night here between UNLV and San Diego State. CBS Sports at 10 p.m. So ESPN, by the way, I think is carrying NBA tonight, which is the NBA, dude. This game, the Miami Ohio game, more people are gonna watch that game than the NBA. I think I would guess. UNLV is coming off a huge win. Look at this game against Utah State, dude. It was a revenge game for Utah State, and UNLV completed the sweep, and they embarrassed them, beating them by almost 30 points. And that was coming off a rivalry win for UNLV where they beat Nevada in overtime. And that was their final home game, too. UNLV looks like they're in a major letdown spot, man. I would absolutely, the only way I could play this game is to fade UNLV here, except the problem is it's a TV game, and they are going up against San Diego State. It is revenge. They lost at home to San Diego State by 11, although that's not everything, But it is still one of the best teams in the conference. So for that reason, I still have my concerns that maybe UNLV will still show up. And the fact that they had such a blowout win, it could make them overconfident, but it does mean that they didn't have to put in that much of an effort at the end of the game. Now for San Diego State, they're coming off a loss at Boise. They've had a rough stretch where they've lost 4 of their last 5 games, although 3 of those losses were on the road. They're going to be back at home here where they last beat Utah State at home. So the San Diego State team, they definitely can win at home. I think they're going to get the win. They get a TV game at home. It's their final home game. They're coming off of some ugly losses. Well, really just the Boise State one. I'm mad I didn't have New Mexico on my card on Saturday. I was close to doing it. I liked that spot. San Diego State, I think they put in 2 big efforts against Utah State and New Mexico, and then they just fell short against Boise after those 2 big games. I think they right the ship and they get it done. San Diego State would be my opinion in this game. The money is agreeing with me on that. You have to lay 10.5, though. 54% of tickets are on UNLV. 68% of the cash on San Diego State. I'd lay it if I was going to play it. It's not going to quite make my card. That one was in consideration for me, though. It's just such a major it looks like just an unbelievable letdown spot for UNLV. I just wish they were like a favorite. That would be awesome. If they were playing like Wyoming or something at home, it would be an awesome, awesome spot to fade them. But unfortunately, they are playing a team that they might actually still be motivated to play. So that's the problem. But San Diego State is the better team. I expect them to get the job done in that one. You're rooting for Ohio. I kind of am too, just because I want to see people lose their shit. I want to see Miami, Ohio lose this game and then lose in the conference tournament too, and then see everybody like freak out when they don't make the tournament. I would laugh so hard, dude. And it would be even better if Auburn gets in. I want to see Auburn make a run in the SEC tournament. Auburn is still a pretty solid team, man. I'm really pissed that Auburn's lost like multiple games they should have won. All right, let's get to hockey. I don't have any plays in hockey here, though. Florida at Detroit. I want to get this video done, man. Just college basketball does get all the focus here. Florida has lost 4 games in a row. They just took an ugly loss at Columbus, but it was last night. So on the one hand, I think Florida should show up here, and they will have Bobrovsky back in net here. He is their better goalie. He didn't play last night. They used Tarasov. So they'll have their better goalie here. They're on a bad losing skid, but they're on a back-to-back. They're actually playing 5 games in the last 8 days, I think, all in different cities, which is not easy to do. So the problem here is that Florida's playing a very jammed schedule right now, and I don't like teams that don't have a lot of rest usually. Detroit's coming off a pretty big overtime loss to Vegas, but that was also in a return home spot. And I talk about the return home spots are sometimes bad. Sometimes the team won't show focus. Although they did, but they still lost the game. But it might be a better spot now that they're settled back in at home. I don't think they're going to overlook Florida. I think both teams are going to give an effort in this one. I worry about Florida's rest situation. Although I'm still going to lean to Florida in this game as the underdog. Detroit's up from minus 135 to minus 153. And the public looks like they're on Detroit. 77% of the tickets, only 55% of the cash, which is crazy that the public just doesn't even want the team that's won the last 2 Stanley Cups. They don't want them anymore. I'm going to lean to Florida, but it's not going to make my card. None of these hockey games are. You like Avs, Vancouver, and Hurricanes. I think I agree with 2 of the 3. Colorado is at Dallas. This is the best game of the night, probably. There were actually 2 really good hockey games tonight. I think this is probably the best one. These 2 teams are very legit. Colorado just absolutely drilled Anaheim. They've had 2 days off, which I don't think you want to have multiple days off when you're on a roll like that and you're feeling good about yourself, but I think they will still show up for a game against Dallas. It is still a big deal. Both teams will show up. Dallas is also coming off crushing an opponent, but it was Calgary. Calgary sucks. Dallas is coming off 2 monster wins, a combined 12-1 score in their last 2 games there. And they're returning home from a road trip. Although it was kind of a quick road trip. It was just Monday, Tuesday. Still a road trip. A lot of times, and they went up to, Canada. Basically to the Pacific Coast, Western Canada. A lot of times when a team returns home from a trip like that, they will be a little bit unfocused, although I don't think they're going to be unfocused against Colorado. I think it comes down to who the better team is in this one. This one, I leaned to Colorado initially, but I worry about it a lot. They're down from minus 125 to minus 118. They're a very public side. Their last win was more impressive than Dallas's. I mean, beating Calgary, nobody cares. Colorado smashing Anaheim is a little bit more impressive, especially because Anaheim's really good at home. 75% of the tickets and cash on Colorado. They're starting to look like a public side, which I really don't like. So I might have to start maybe even leaning towards Dallas there, but I don't want to play a team returning home from a road trip either, even though it was a quick road trip. You can see why I'm staying away. Vancouver and Chicago. This Vancouver team, I don't want anything to do with Vancouver. They just almost beat Carolina at home, so that would have me looking to fade Vancouver. They pretty much gave this an all-out effort against Carolina, and they gave up an empty net goal at the end. This was a 1-goal game in the final minute of regulation, so they were really, really close to potentially tying Carolina. They gave you an all-out effort here, man. Now, they're going on the road. I know a lot of times when a team goes out on the road, they'll be focused to start a road trip. But I don't know, man. Coming off such a monster effort from Vancouver, I don't know what they're going to have left for this game against Carolina. I don't know what they're going to have left against a Chicago team that's not good. Chicago did just go into overtime against Winnipeg. The worst thing for Chicago is they're returning home from a road trip. So I do look to fade teams returning home from road trips because, again, you come home, you're usually not going to be focused. They do have a huge game up next against Dallas. So they definitely could overlook Vancouver in a spot like this, but I can't put my money on Vancouver in the spot that they're in. So this is a stay away. I think an over could be worth a look in this one. Chicago, they've had a couple of days off, so the rest, I don't know if the rest is going to help them again because it's a return home spot, and sometimes that will, put you back in, home mode, family mode, and it will add to the distraction. They've been on the road since Thursday the 26th, so basically a little over a week, and they did have to go to Nashville, which is one of their main rivals, then into Elevation to Colorado, Utah, and then all the way up to Canada. So it's not a great spot for them, not a good road trip return spot there. Chicago's up to minus 155 or minus 145, 81% of the tickets, 89% of the cash at Chicago. The money looks like it's somewhat on Chicago here. I like over in this one, but the money looks like it's slightly coming in on the under. But when you have two teams in really bad spots like that, my tendency is that it's going to affect the defense, and I don't know how much we trust either goalie in this situation either. I certainly don't trust Vancouver's. So whoever it is, I don't even know who it's going to be, but it doesn't even matter really. Yeah, so that's a stay away from me. I think over is better than the side in that one, but I don't want that either. I played a little bit of totals in hockey last year, and it was mostly successful, but I don't want to deal with it. The other really good game tonight is Carolina and Edmonton. None of these games really get TV billing either. Florida and Detroit gets the NHL Network game, which that's a decent game too. I mean, I shouldn't, badmouth it. And actually, there are a few other good games. It's a pretty good hockey slate, actually. There are a couple other pretty good games too, actually. Carolina's coming up barely beating Vancouver. I think they were looking ahead to Edmonton, so I think they kind of got a little bit of a scare there against Vancouver. I think they're going to show up with more effort this time against Edmonton. I think they were already looking ahead. Edmonton is coming off an overtime win against Ottawa in a return home spot. I'm not happy about that. That was the game that Ottawa blew, which was I think the last hockey play I gave out on the show was that one. I haven't done any hockey for a few days now, and I'm not doing it tonight either, man. Trying to be selective. Edmonton returned home. It was a bad spot for them. They still got the job done. It wasn't a great game for them, and a lot of times that second game will be the better effort that you get if you don't get a good effort the first time. So I don't want to do anything with this game. Carolina is the better team. They're minus 115, which is a decent price. 77% of tickets, 98% of the cash on Carolina. I think I do agree with Carolina coming off that scare there. Both teams being focused. I think they probably, because they're the better team, I think that's probably the way I would look, but I don't want anything to do with that game either. Montreal and Anaheim is actually a pretty good game as well. Montreal is coming off a loss to San Jose. That's a pretty ugly loss. So I think Montreal will give you a better effort this time. They're staying in California. They've had a couple of days off. I think they're going to show up for this one, even though I don't love fading Anaheim at home because they're really good at home. Anaheim just smashed the Islanders at home. That was a nice, satisfying win for them, 5-1 at home. When you have one team that won 5-1 up against a team that just lost 7-5, even though I think Dostal will be back in net for Dossel. I think he'll be back in net for Anaheim here because they used Husso in the Islanders game. Their primary goalie will be back in net here, so I don't really want to fade that either. But when you have a team that just won in a blowout against a team that gave up a ton of goals and looked bad, I'm going to look towards that team that looked bad. So I like Montreal in this one. Anaheim down from minus 110 to minus 107, 81% of the tickets, 87% of the cash on them. The Republic side, maybe more of the money coming in on Anaheim right now. I wouldn't really trust the percentages on that one, though. Minnesota at Vegas. Minnesota just beat Tampa Bay. So I first looked at this and I'm like, well, they're probably in a fade spot. We want to fade Minnesota. That was a very satisfying win. I think 5-1 over a very good Tampa Bay team who were like a minus 150 road favorite in that game too. Minnesota's not as good as people think they are. They're coming off a monster win and they have a monster TV game on Sunday against Colorado. So is it possible they overlook Vegas? I hesitate to say that they will. That's the thing because this is still a game where, well, they're not in the same division, but Vegas is still leading their division. So they're not really a team that you're really going to overlook necessarily, even though they're not as good as Tampa Bay or Colorado. Vegas has a little bit of momentum, I think, because they did just end a long losing streak. But they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. They're coming off a pretty nice win themselves in overtime against Detroit. But the worst thing is they're returning home from a road trip where they went all the way to the East Coast. They actually started on the West Coast, then went to the East Coast, then basically Midwest, and now they're coming back home. I don't love that setup for Vegas, man. You know I like to fade teams returning home from road trips. And they're playing a fifth game, actually a sixth game in whatever that is, 10 days or something like that. So they've had a really packed schedule, all in different cities. I can't do it, man. Unfortunately, because I'm like, oh, Minnesota's in a pretty bad spot here, but Vegas is also in a bad spot. So this is another one where I'd probably say over. Might be worth a look here. Total has dropped a little bit. You'd be playing it over 6. I think you'd be playing that other game I talked about over 6 as well. Minnesota has 60% of the tickets on them, 51% of the cash on Vegas. So the money is still agreeing with Vegas here. Minnesota off from minus 105 to minus 108. The odds makers are actually telling you, even though I think Minnesota's an overrated team, odds makers are telling you they're actually better than Vegas. Hard times for Vegas right now, man. Not as good as we thought they would be this year. I'd probably still lean Vegas in that game, but again, I think an over might be a better look in that one, but not a totals guy. I'm staying away. And then we got NBA. ESPN, like I said, is carrying 2 NBA games, which really are not great games, to be honest. The first one up is Dallas and Boston, my Celtics. Dallas has lost a bunch of games in a row, but they did just have a close call last night against Orlando. So they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities, a fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities. That's not easy to do, man. So the rest situation is not good for Dallas. We have to see if Cooper Flagg is coming back. I think he's not. He's not even he's not listed on the injury report, but let's see. Sometimes that means that he is back. Oh, no, he is back. Has he come back already? Let me see. Oh, he came back. Oh, shit. He came back in the Orlando game, and he didn't do well. He didn't shoot well in the game. So now here's the thing, man. Cooper Flagg came back. He was out for a month. He was rusty. But, I talk about this. That second game where your star player is back, a lot of times you do a lot better than you did the first game. But it's a very tough travel spot for Dallas. But they are in the they're in the post-reverse injured player spot, which is a positive. So they do have a positive here. And the real problem for the Celtics, which should not be a problem long-term, but I think it will be in this game, is Jason Tatum might play in this game. He's been working out. He's been practicing. And there is a chance that he plays tonight, which is insane. And based on the line, it looks like the line might be saying that he is playing, which, of course, pregame, the JavaScript looks like it failed again. So thank you, pregame. Let me go to the NBA here. The Celtics are a 15.5-point favorite, and they're public. 72% of tickets on them, only 69% of the cash. They better fucking win the game, man. It's a 15.5-point favorite, but I would probably have to lean to the Mavs, even though they've had a jammed schedule. I'm not going to play the game. I think I would take the points with the Mavs. If you have your second game with Cooper Flagg back, I know the schedule's just really too packed, though, for them. Celtics are at least coming off an embarrassing loss, so I guess that's one thing that is in favor of the Celtics. They got embarrassed at home by Charlotte. They have a day off, and they're staying at home. So from that aspect, the spot is better for the Celtics. But I think they're going to be overvalued if Tatum is playing tonight, man. Again, we have to see. He's listed as game time decision here. We don't know if he's going to play yet or not. He hasn't played this entire season, so that's the thing. He could be rusty, but Joe Mazzulla is smart because this is the type of game you want to bring him back in. You know what I mean? It's a game at home where you're a huge favorite. You should be able to win the game. The other team's kind of in an iffy spot, doesn't have rest. You should be able to win this game anyway. You know what I mean? So I like this because you do not want to go into the playoffs and bring Tatum in the playoffs in really, really meaningful games. You know what I mean? You want to bring him in this game. Get him a bunch of games under his belt, you know what I mean? Work him back up to the point where he's at 100%. So I like what's going on here. I like that that's the plan. And then if he's at 100% or close to it, the Celtics could definitely be a threat in the playoffs. As a Celtics fan, I like that, obviously. I like it. I like what Mazzulla's doing here, man. Now, the other thing is, the other reason to fade the Celtics here, though, is, again, the line's going to move if Tatum is playing, the line's going to be huge. But just because Tatum is playing, that doesn't mean he's going to come out there and play 37 minutes. You know what I mean? In fact, that's highly unlikely. If he's playing, he might not even start. If he's playing, he might come off the bench, which is probably actually a better idea. Don't put him out there to start, work him back into the rotation by having him come off the bench, have him play like 10, 15 minutes, you know what I mean? Something like that. I think that is probably what's going to happen in this game. So I think the Celtics are probably going to be laying too many points here for all those reasons. So it's a crazy handicap in this game. But I would lean to the Mavs, but there are just kind of too many other indicators kind of against it. I got to get back to the NBA schedule here. All right. So that's that game. Miami is at Charlotte here. Charlotte coming off that huge blowout win over the Celtics. They might be feeling pretty high on themselves here after that. Maybe they'll show up, because it's a game against Miami. Miami did have to play last night, but they beat Brooklyn. It was an easy win for them last night. Now they are having to travel to Charlotte. They do have a game next against Detroit, so maybe there is a look-ahead component to this for Miami. Charlotte could be in a letdown spot after that win against Boston, though. They're coming back home from that. They did have yesterday off, playing a third game in 4 days. Maybe they don't overlook Miami because Miami is probably going to be at least in the play-in part of the playoffs, if you want to call it that. I'd probably take the points with Miami in this one, though. All that being said, Hornets have 66% of tickets, only 57% of the cash. Everyone's kind of hyped on the Hornets now. Oh, they're above 500 now. They just, destroyed the Celtics on the road. That's probably reason to fade them here. They're a 7.5-point favorite. The stock might be getting a little too high on the Hornets here at this point, man. The Heat are not that bad, and they look probably worse than they actually are record-wise because they've had to deal with injuries to Hero and Adebayo, and I think they're both there now. So those are my thoughts on that. It would be Miami plus the points. It looks like Miami, is without Powell here, but those other guys that I mentioned should be there. Portland at Houston. Portland coming off beating Memphis to end a losing streak. Not impressive to beat Memphis, but still, they ended a losing streak. They've won 3 games in a row against Memphis. They're going to be focused, you would assume, going to Houston. It's a big game to go to a team that's definitely going to be in the playoffs. Houston is coming off a tougher game, I would say. They played yesterday and had to play to overtime, and they lost as a home favorite to Golden State. So sometimes you'll bounce back from that, but I think that was still kind of a big game, even though it's a very injured Golden State team. They do have a huge game on deck against the Spurs, so they might look ahead to that. So I'd lean to Portland in this one, but not really a strong enough opinion from me. Rockets are a 6.5-point favorite here. 67% of the tickets and 70% of the cash on the Rockets. But I would probably take the points with Portland. Probably the best game of the night. Doesn't even get a TV spot. Knicks at Nuggets. New York at Denver. We know the Knicks are not very good on the road, so that's kind of where we start. The Knicks are like a 500 road team pretty much. Denver is not as good as you would think they are at home, though. And I think both teams are kind of in bad spots. I mean, the Knicks just had a big game against Oklahoma City and blew the game. I think the Knicks had some chances to win that game at home. They lost by 3. That was a huge game for the Knicks. Now they got to go out to elevation. And sure, they should get up for the game. You're starting a road trip. Big deal to play Denver. But playing, 3 games in 4 days, all in different cities, having to play a run of games like this is not that easy. They played the Spurs on the first, went to Toronto. I'm mad about that because I lost on that game. Came back home, played Oklahoma City. It's not really an easy spot for the Knicks here, man. Denver is at least staying at home, even though they did get a nice, satisfying win last night. So they're playing on a back-to-back, but they had 2 days off prior to that. They got a win over the Lakers last night. It was a good win, a satisfying win. And they do have a game against Oklahoma City next, which is going to be quick revenge. So possible they look ahead to that. I don't like the spot for either team, really. So it's a game that I want nothing to do with. The money's all coming in the under, even though it's the type of game where I say that I think if focus is going to lapse a little bit and defense might lapse a little bit, I think the over makes sense. But, I don't want to get involved in the game at all. The Knicks flip from a 1-point dog to a 1.5-point favorite. The money is coming in on the Nuggets, though. Although now it's 51% of tickets, 52% of the cash on the Nuggets instead of the 60 whatever that it once was. That's what I tell you. Like, these percentages could shift a lot in the morning. I think I would, lean to Denver in this one, but I don't want anything to do with the game. The Knicks are, only 16-14 on the road. Nuggets not great at home, 17-12, but, better than the Knicks are on the road at the very least. As far as the injuries are concerned, the big deal has been Aaron Gordon. We don't know if he's coming back or not. The Nuggets' defense has been a lot worse without him. It looks like he's trying to play tonight. So if he comes back, he's missed more than a month, man. So if he comes back, then I would hesitate on the Nuggets a bit more, even though he does help their defense seemingly quite a bit. The problem is they have to work him back into the rotation. You know what I mean? When you bring one of your best players back, it's kind of the reverse injured player spot, and sometimes the team will have a little bit of a chemistry issue out of the gate. So that's a reason to maybe be wary of Denver there. New Orleans at Phoenix. New Orleans coming into this game. And these games are going to start really soon, man, the conference tournament games. I think all my games are night games, though. New Orleans coming into this game off of beating Sacramento yesterday, so they're on a back-to-back. They're actually playing – this is a really difficult scheduling spot for them at the end of a long road trip where they're 3-2 on the road trip right now. But they've played, what is this? They're playing a back-to-back, third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, fifth game in 8 days, and a sixth game in 10 days. I guess seventh game in 12 days, all in different cities. That is very, very difficult to do. I thought that it would catch up to them last night. My leans last night in the NBA didn't work well, so luckily I did not have plays on those, on the Kings or the Wizards. Stayed away. Those were 2 avoided losses there, so that's good. Not good that I wasn't right about them, but the Pelicans got that win. They might run out of steam a little bit here, man. This is a very difficult scheduling spot for them. Phoenix does have Devin Booker back. I think he's played a couple of games now. He played much better in their last game, but that was last night, and they lost. So both teams are on back-to-backs, but New Orleans is having to travel. Phoenix isn't, and Phoenix just had a real ugly loss last night as a favorite against the Bulls. So the spot is better for Phoenix. You're getting a pretty good Phoenix team here. I think in a focus spot after that bad loss last night, I would lay it with the Suns here. 57% of tickets, 74% of the cash on the Suns. Money seems to agree with me on this. They're down from 7 to 6 here. So that's what I think about that. The last 2 games, we're in the best bet segment. I don't think I brought up the graphic at all for the college basketball. I apologize. This is the best bet segment, man. I think I worry about this one a little bit more than the other, but we're going to be on the Clippers plus 7.5. We're going to fade the Spurs, even though they're hosting an ESPN game, and I know sometimes you get up for a TV game like that Friday night. I'm leaning against both home teams here, but the Clippers, I think the fact that they're a game below 500, that kind of is like a mental motivator. You want to get back to 500. Clippers are not as bad as people think they are. They started off the season horribly. I think they're a little bit better than that now. They're trying to work their way back to 500, and you know you're getting effort out of them. I know they're beating mostly kind of bad teams or injured teams here, but they've won 3 games in a row, so they're playing with effort. That's what you want here, man, and I think pretty much you know you're going to get an effort out of them when they're going to San Antonio to start a road trip here. And I think the spot for San Antonio is significantly worse. They played last night, so they're on a back-to-back, and that was a return home spot, and they still won against the Pistons. That was a big game, and they won by 15 points. If you look at the box score, statistically the game was a lot closer than that. I don't really know how they won by that much, but that was a bad spot. They were returning home from a long road trip. They still showed up with focus, got a big win against Detroit. Now, no time off. They have to turn around and play a Clippers team that I don't think is really going to scare you with their record and the fact that they traded away James Harden. And Garland, it seems like he might not be playing. I don't know if he's going to play tonight or not. He played 1 game, I think, for them so far. But I'm still going to go based on the spot here, man, and go with the Clippers. Spurs have a big – look at their schedule on deck, man. They play Houston, their Texas rival, on deck in a TV game. The game after that is a TV game against the Celtics. Then they play the Nuggets after that. So they have 3 huge games on deck. This is a sandwich spot. They got no rest here. They were on the road prior to that game, so they've been traveling recently too. So they're playing a 4th game in 6 days, with 2 of them being on the East Coast. So, yeah, I don't love the spot here at all for them. We're going to take the Clippers here, man. I think I can get rid of KenPom right now, too. The Spurs, they're down from 9 to 7 here. I think you can find 7, 7.5 right now. Maybe it'll go back up a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if we need to play this one now or not, but at least 7.5 because that's the key number when teams stop intentionally fouling at the 3-possession threshold. 78% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on the Spurs. The money is coming in on the Spurs a little bit, but they're a public side. And of course, I think the spot's awful for them. And it's a pretty low total in the 220s, so we're taking the points there. I actually like this other one better, but people might disagree, and people might think this one is the uglier one. We're also going to take the Indiana Pacers against the Lakers here, man. The Lakers have already dropped from 10.5 to 9, 9.5 here. I think you can find 9.5 out there right now. 69% of tickets, 66% of the cash on the Lakers. So the money is fading the Lakers here. They're a public side. Look at the spot that the Lakers are in, man. I already told you they're on a back-to-back. They were in Denver last night, and they had a close call. They almost beat Denver on the road last night. It was a big, tough game for them. Now they're coming back home. They're playing a 3rd game in 4 days, having to come out of elevation with no time off. They're playing a Pacer team that is not going to really grab anybody's focus. And up next, they got to play the Knicks on ABC in a TV game on Sunday. Then they have a TV game against the Timberwolves after that. So they have some big games on deck. This is a sandwich spot and a back-to-back. So we're fading two big favorites that are on back-to-backs in sandwich spots. Indiana, I know they're not playing well. They've lost 7 games in a row, but they're staying in LA and they've had a day off. So I think that's a very big advantage to them. The fact that they're not even traveling. They're staying in Los Angeles, and they just got blown out by the Clippers. So I think they're going to want to do something in this LA part of the trip to show something. You know what I mean? You're going to get more up for the Lakers than you do up for the Clippers. This is an embarrassing stretch of games, and I know you got to be worried, like, is Indiana just not putting in effort anymore? You do have to worry about that. I think this might be a game where you do get effort out of them. You're playing the Lakers, man, on the road. I mean, you know, I think you're going to get something out of the Pacers in this game. These are still professionals. You don't want to lose this many games in a row and get embarrassed like that. So that's what we're going to go with. We're going to take the Pacers plus the points there. And that's it, finally. So the plays today, one more time, in college basketball, we have Southeast Missouri State in the Ohio Valley Conference. I already took that one on the money line. If the money line gets to be a little bit bigger than that, look to the spread, I guess, lay 1.5 or 2 on that. I see the number kind of all over the place at different books. Again, this is why you want a lot of outs there. You want to have a lot of different outs, man, but we're playing the money line on that one for me. But, yeah, you want to have a lot of outs. We got Buffalo plus the points, and then NBA, college basketball. NBA, we're going to be on the Clippers and the Pacers plus the points, so a few large underdogs today. And again, when you take those underdogs, put a little bit on the money line, like 10% of the bet or so, I would say. Maybe with the Pacers, maybe a little bit less, but yeah, I don't know. Put a little bit on that money line at least. That's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. You can subscribe to me there. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Listen, like and subscribe to the channel here, man. Let's do it. Subscribe so you get those notifications. Hopefully that all works. Give me good replies here. Listen on audio as well, Apple and Spotify. And give me good reviews over there. That all helps. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. You can check that out as well. Patreon.com/LearnToToad, and you can support me there if you want to. I know I'm not good at checking the stuff there. I apologize. But, yeah, I got to get back to that as well. Losercast, of course, the comedy podcast I'm on every Tuesday night. And then I have to figure out what I want to do. I know a lot of times I've done night college basketball shows for Saturday, but the slate is getting a little bit less cumbersome for Saturday. So as the regular season is wrapped up for a lot of teams now, so it'll be a little bit less work for me. So I'll do a separate morning show maybe, or incorporate it into a morning show. Tonight I'm going to be at a comedy show, so we'll see. I'm going to Dan Soder tonight, so we'll see. I love that. Dude, he's hilarious. I love that guy. I've seen him once live, so I think I'm going to have some fun at that show tonight. We'll see. I mean, if anybody's in Boston, they're in that area, yeah. I mean, you see me around, say hi, I guess. That's going to do it, man. I'll be back probably tomorrow morning. We'll get it all done. Let's get some wins, man. Come on. Let's get back on the winning side. We're kind of treading water right now, which I don't love, so let's do it. Yeah, Dan Soder. He's also like kind of the comedic relief in Billions, which I still haven't watched the final season of Billions. I got to get on that, man. Dan Soder, he's good in that show, too. He's not in it much, but when he is in it, you know it's a banger when he shows up there. So, yeah, I like Soder. Ryan Long's doing a special. I just got a Ryan Long ticket for Boston when he's coming through Boston on that tour. Yeah, go to his special, man. I've been to a couple of special tapings. You can probably see me in the Jim Gaffigan one that came out like a year or so ago at the Wilbur in Boston. I was like right near the front, and I was very tired. I'd just come from a Celtics game in the finals, I think, against the Mavs. So I ran down from TD Garden down to the Wilbur for the Jim Gaffigan. And I didn't even realize it was a special taping. I was just like, oh, I'm going to this comedy show. And then I came in and they're like, you got to remove your hat, like whatever. It's a special. I'm like, oh, shit. All right. So, yeah, I went to his special. And then Sam Morrill filmed a special in Boston maybe 2 or so years ago. And I was at that as well. But I was up in the mezzanine, so you can't see me in that one or anything. For the Jim Gaffigan one, I was right down on the floor, like very close to the stage. I was like at one of the tables, like one table back from the stage, or maybe right at the stage almost. I forget. So you should be able to see me in that one. Not at the Sam Morril one, though. I was up in the mezzanine for that one. But that was a good show. The Gaffigan one was fine as well. Yeah. But yes, I'm going to Ryan Long. I've seen him twice. He's good, man. He follows me on Twitter. Shout out to Ryan Long. I told him I'm going to the Boston show. He liked it last night. Shout out to Ryan Long, man. He's good. But yes, I've seen him once at the Wilbur in Boston and once at Laugh Boston, I want to say. Where I think I talked to him briefly at the Laugh Boston one. And then I think he's back at the Wilbur this time on his new tour that he's doing here. But yes, a lot of comedy coming up, man. I'm going to Dave Smith in a couple of weeks in Boston as well. That's going to be at Laugh Boston. I've seen him there a couple of times. I've seen him in multiple different places in Boston, man. I've seen Dave at least probably 8 times. I saw him in Reno, of course, because, when we're going to those events, we go to all the things. Went to the D.C. one. All that stuff. I've seen him perform in New Hampshire, probably. Maybe not. Maybe it was just Robbie the Fire at those ones. I don't know. I don't even know anymore, man. I've seen Dave in a lot of different locations, though. Danny, is that is that the boys cast? I don't listen to enough podcasts anymore, man. Danny, Polachuk, is that his name? I think he follows me on Twitter as well. I like him. I think he's funny, if that's who you're talking about. Yeah. So if they're both there, does that mean they're going to do a live podcast too? That, and I'm going to see Leonardo Joni, by the way, when she's going to be in Boston, and she's basically canceled. So she has to do these shows where you don't even know what the location of the show is, but it's going to be somewhere near Boston. I don't know. The last time she did one, it was not even in Boston. It was near Boston. I went to that. She was awesome. I've seen her a couple of times live. Yeah, she was awesome. So I'm going to go see her again, too, in about a week, actually. Yeah, Polachuk. I like that guy. All right, we're talking comedy. I got a lot of comedy shows coming up, too. But yeah, I am going to Shane Gillis again as well. I have to. Shane Gillis, when I saw him at the Wang like 2 years ago or so, or whatever that was, it was one of the best comedy shows I've ever seen live. He was so fucking good at that show. Yeah, unbelievable. But he's huge. He's doing the TD Garden, but I am going to that for Shane Gillis. Oh, he moderated the Colorado debate. That would have been awesome. Yes, Colorado did vote for me, and thank you. Yes, Colorado was all over Toledo. I got Colorado and New Hampshire voting for me at the LP National Convention. There you go, baby. All right, that's going to do it. I'm going to have some lunch. I'm going to get these other bets in probably, too, figure out where the best numbers are. That first one, the Southeast Missouri one, is the one that's kind of moving more. The other ones, I don't think we have to worry as much. But that'll do it. Thanks, guys. Peace.